I'm a burglar. I'm taking everything. I knock on the door first, and it's just to see if anybody's home. Like that, and the dog just goes away, right? I went up there and beat 1090 Jacob. I haven't told this story like to an extent like this, but I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I started like, it started small. I would go and I would hit cars, you know what I mean? I would wait till like 9, 10 o'clock, wait till mom sleep. I'm 14, 15 years old, sneaking out the house. I'll go 3 neighborhoods over and just start checking all the cars to see if they're unlocked. I'm taking credit cards. I'm taking whatever I could get my hands on. So it was a mass progression from there to houses.
Right.
And from like 15 to 18, my dad came back in my life here and there. And wild story, dude, I used to hit houses with my dad at 15. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he was strung out. I was just a bad kid involved with a bunch of other bad kids and had a negative influence from my father, who was, like I said, he was strung out.
Yeah.
He didn't know any better. He was robbing and doing all the ones, twos. And
What is he having you watch the house,
No,
or you go in and he watches?
Honestly, he wouldn't even be the one to say, let's hit a house. I would be the one, because I was 15 and I want to smoke. There was nothing really my dad could do about it. He was also, like running the streets. He was strung out. So there was nothing he could tell me. So like I said, I would offer. I'd be like, hey, let's go hit a house. We'll bust down half-half. And because, like I said, I'm 15, my dad knows people. He knows people with cars. I'll be like, hey, man, call your buddy, get the car. We'll go half-half, load dude, I've literally broken houses with my dad and walked flat screens out with like computers and all type of shit into the car, loaded like I'm moving somebody's house into the car, you know what I mean? And driven off. And I would say, because I had an adult around me who was my father at the time, and like my mom was by herself doing it, and I just, had the negative environment around me, I would say it made me down spiral to doing even crazier shit. From the age of 15 to 18, I've hit over 100 houses.
With your dad, or some with, some without?
I probably about 2 or 3 with my dad.
Oh, okay.
One of them consisting of his old boss. He was a manager at some construction company after he got out, because he has like, some type of certification in plumbing and stuff like that. So they made him a manager on the site. And the people it was an older Canadian couple. And they used to, after, like at Friday after work, they would tell everybody to come to their house. And at their house, they had like a desk kind of like this with a big briefcase that they would pop open. And in the briefcase would be like a calculator and the checkbook and loose money here and there, hundreds, 20s. And that's how they paid people out. And I don't know what made me, but like I said, 9 out of every 10 times, it was always my idea. It wasn't my dad's idea, you know what I mean? And I could kind of see his angle. He was strung out, needed money, and he would rather be there than not be there because he couldn't stop me.
Right.
But man, we ended up hitting these Canadians' house, and I rode so my dad walked. I rode a bike there first because I told him I'm gonna go hit these Canadians. And he's like, because he didn't work there no more. I don't work there no more. Because I had got a job for like 2 weeks there, and I ended up getting sick on the job site, and they fired me, which was more fuel to the fire to let me take everything they got, because they paid me out. I know where everything's at. And I told my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go hit the Canadians. And he's like, all right, I'll catch up with you. And I get on the bike, and he walks, and I ride over to the Canadians' house, and I do what they used to call a bob knock. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you're a burglar, you know what a bob knock is. You knock on the door real quick, and you're like, hey. If somebody answers the door, you're like, hey, you look at the number. If it says 210, you're like, hey, is Bob here? And they're like, no. Isn't this 230? And they'll be like, no, this is 210. And I'll be like, all right, no. So what I do is a bob knock. I knock on the door first, and it's just to see if anybody's home.
Yeah.
And so I knock on the Canadian door. I get there. I put my bike on the side of the shed. I get there. I knock on the door. no answer. I pound. I usually give it about 2 or 3 knocks first, you know, some nice knocks, and then I start doom, 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 doom. Sometimes I'll hit the window a couple times to see if somebody will come to the door. And I must have pounded on this door, I would say like 15 times, and nobody answered. So I pull the knife out and I jimmy the door. I get it open and I start robbing the house.
You already know there's not a dog or anything.
I already know there's not a dog, and I don't see the main vehicle there. So, like I said, I gave it the Bob knock. Nobody answered the door. I'm thinking it's slap empty. So I start with the kitchen, because when you come in, the kitchen's to the right. And I'll never forget it, because this whole time in the house, like I said, empty. I'm thinking it's empty. And I start with the kitchen and I go in the cabinets. I start taking liquor bottles. I fucking make my way to the office. I start going through stuff. There's like 3 pocketbooks in there. I end up finding like 7 grams of in a pocketbook. I gave that to my pops because, you know, that was his drug of choice. So I gave it to my pops. But long story short, I get all the way. I already ransacked like 3 or 4 rooms. Right? I got bags of stuff that I'm setting on top of the counter that I'm getting ready to leave with. And I go to the last room, right? The suitcase, already got it. The suitcase is on the counter with everything else. It's bags. Dude, I got Tito's vodka out of the cabinets. I got everything, right? And a couple loose cash, loose bills and stuff. I didn't even go through the briefcase yet. But I'm in the back room and I start to, it's a very back room, and they have one of these like, I would say, like a sliding partition, like for a door, like you just slide it like that. And I get to the back and I start to slide it, and this lady the bed is direct. As soon as you open the door, this lady is naked, completely naked, on the bed like this, watching TV, and the TV is pretty loud, but you couldn't hear it with the partition shut. And she's just dude, her eyes are like this, and she's locked in on the TV. I'm assuming it's his wife. I didn't get a good glance because I like freaked. As soon as I seen it, I was like, ran to the front, grabbed the bags, run out the house. As I'm running out the house, my dad, he's walking up. I'm like, go, 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 go. He grabs a couple bags. He's running as I'm grabbing the bike and riding back.
You guys don't have a vehicle?
No,
you didn't
vehicle.
show. I was
Dude,
thinking maybe he's showing up with a car.
My dad, he's a drug addict. You know, like I said, sometimes we would get a vehicle from one of his friends. But this was one of those times where we didn't have a vehicle, and he ended up walking and I rode a bike. Dude, I shit you not. Anyways, I ended up hitting that lick, gave my dad the coke, got a couple $100 out of it, a checkbook, you know, just minor shit. I was like 15, you know, at the time. So it was enough for me to get a couple ounces of a bottle of OE. People don't remember this generation, but I remember the $1.50 quart of Old English from the corner store with a big fat Philly blunt, you know what I mean? And that was the generation that I'm speaking on. And so like I said, it was a good day. And but you have no idea, man. I've literally went into neighborhoods, stole the person's golf cart, and then drove the next neighborhood over and started robbing houses on the golf cart. Right. So I would go to the house. Like I said, I would give it a Bob knock, and if nobody answered, I was finding my way in. And after I found my way in, and I found my way to the jewelry box, the safe, whatever you had in there, your guns, whatever it may be, some DVDs, it didn't matter. Anything was valuable to me. I took it out in pillowcases. I took it out in garbage bags, brought it to the golf cart, and went to another house and started robbing it.
Where are you getting rid of this stuff?
Oh, man.
I mean, is there like a fence or a pawn shop? But to go to a pawn shop, you got to leave your license.
From 15 to 17, I would say I really didn't have any legitimate fencing plugs to off the merchandise. So a lot of it went into the streets. You know, I would just, hey man, I got a TV for sale. Which you give me $40.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of it from 15 to 17. But at the age of 17, I met a pawn shop owner out of Hollywood, Florida, and all the jewelry that I would steal, I could bring to him, and he would melt it down. He would do whatever needed to be done and pay me out and take his 25% on top. So jewelry, by the age of like 17, 18, jewelry became a number one priority for me when I hit houses.
What are you getting for it? It's just he kind of weighs it, it's kind of loose.
It depends, dude. I've actually, participated in stuff where I've had to drive 2 hours north to hit a house. And this is when I was like 17, 18, fresh out of my juvenile program. And I started meeting new people. A lot of my friends, homies from the block, they've aged. So with the crime they were doing when we were little, it's only developed into bigger crime.
Yeah.
So we would pile up in the car 2-3 deep, and we would drive 2 hours north, and we would hit jewelers.
There's a reason that easy side hustle feels like a felony. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've got over 1,000 attorneys, and they've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. That's not luck. That's results. Like this. In Florida, an insurance company offered someone $350,000. Morgan & Morgan got them $12 million. Another client in Pennsylvania was offered $500,000. Morgan & Morgan helped them walk away with $29 million. When you hire them, it's like showing up to a fight with a legal army behind you. And their fee? It's free unless they win. So if you're ever injured and it's not your fault, don't mess around. You can start your claim without even leaving the couch. Go to forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox. That's forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox.
We would hit private jewelers because you'll be amazed how many private jewelers there are in the state of Florida. There's a ton. And we would literally go and stalk a private jeweler. So we would basically, like if we go to the Boca Mall, they have the National Jewelers Exchange where people just walk around with their jewelry and they sell their jewelry. They have their little stands. Some sell diamond rings, engagement rings. Some people sell only Rolexes. Some people sell Invictas, so on and so forth. We would stalk them. So we would find out where they live. We would pick our target and we would find out where they live. And like I said, in some cases, I drove 2 hours north just to go to that person's house because that's where they lived. That's where the major stash was at. And dude, I've split up almost $90K worth of jewelry between 3 people. I'm pretty sure the jewelry was valued a lot more than $90K.
Oh, okay. So you guys got $90K.
$90K was the outcome between 3
sure
people.
It was worth a lot more
and
than that,
again,
yeah.
we're like 17 years old. This is good money to us. It was enough to get back to the city, buy a new car, with a couple thousand miles on it.
How else do you move it? I remember my mom used a private jeweler because my mom never walked into Jared's, She private jeweler, somebody named Grace Weller, and she used to buy from her all the time. And it's all word of mouth. Like, like rich people don't go into, Jared's, right? You don't pay $7,000 for something you go to a private jeweler and get for $3,000.
Yeah.
And so this woman got set up. This girl came, looked at a bunch of diamonds, left, said, "Oh, I'm going to come back." Scheduled again. "Oh, I'm going to come back. I'm going to get that diamond." Shows up, and as soon as the Grace Weller opens the door, boom, they kick open the door, rush in, they rob her. I mean, they just take her for everything. They caught the guys like 2 weeks later selling, and I mean, we're talking about like a carat, 2 carat diamonds at a bar. Guys selling them for $25 a carat.
Yep. If you don't,
And
like I
mean,
said, if you don't have a fencing connect, it's not worth it. It's not worth because you're just hitting that jeweler and you're probably gonna get maybe a few $1,000s out of it. Like I said, we got paid out $90K, but I'm almost positive it was worth about $180K.
Right. Yeah, it had to be for that guy to take the risk, and then he's got to resell it.
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff he had, it could have been worth more, but a lot of the stuff, was pendants, diamond rings, and stuff like that, engagement rings, and I'm pretty sure, if you're not selling it as a whole engagement ring, you lose value when you take stones out of stuff like that and try to re-stone it or melt down the metals and stuff like that. But it was a good payout for us, 17 years old.
No, we've had professional jewelers come in and they've said like they get like 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents. Like that's good money.
Yeah,
because you get it all right away. That guy's got to melt it down. He's got to make new jewelry out of it. He's got to, there's a whole series, and it could take years for him to recoup his money. So I mean, obviously, if you get 30 cents, 40 cents, that's a reasonable payout for something that is completely illegal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it was just a progression to.
And you're just a kid.
Yeah, I'm only 17 at that time. So, and I was fresh out of a juvenile program. Mind you, I spent 18 months from the age of 15 to 17 in a juvenile program, to where I caught 2 additional charges while I was in the program because I was such a violent kid. The charges were ridiculous. Honestly, if you ask me as an adult, so I'm going to just put this on the table. A lot of the juvenile systems and juvenile programs I've been in boot camp, I've been in level 6 programs, level 8, juvenile detention centers. A lot of the programs from my youth, either I was abused or other juveniles around me were abused. So I don't think this is a good thing for juveniles unless they strictly monitor it, because especially in boot camp, I was abused. Juvenile programs, they'll beat the shit out of you if you're not, if you're acting up.
Yeah, I've heard that over and over again, that they're just fucking brutal. Like they're matter of fact, the one guy I interviewed about 2 days ago, he was saying that, and he had been like the pen. He's like, the juvenile programs were more violent and randomly violent. Like, there was no rhyme or reason to it. Yep. He said, then the pens that he went, because at least there was some structure to the pen. He was in the juvenile program. He was like, guys will just, for no reason, they just look over at you and they want to fuck with you. And some bigger kid just walks over and just starts beating on somebody who's smaller, or walks over and wants to take his food. And the kid says no. And then it's a huge fight. And that didn't really happen.
It's a lot of violence in the juvenile programs. I would say the violence so I was violent, like I said, all growing up. I got in a lot of fights in my neighborhood. I fought the neighborhood that I grew up in. I fought like majority of the people in the neighborhood. Just being white was, an undercard for me, because I was one of the very few white people in the neighborhood. So I was an easy target to pick on or to laugh at, and like I said, a lot of violence from the age of 10 to 15. I guess it was because I was bullied, as a shorty, and I just didn't want to take it no more. I remember at one point I went out and tried to fight like random people in my neighborhood just because they disrespected me maybe 2 months ago, or I felt disrespected 2 months ago. And, so a lot of that in my neighborhood trauma kind of set me up for the juvenile, and dealing with the violence in there, I became even more violent. And like I said, with the staff abuse, I remember times where, like I said, I caught 2 charges. 2 of those charges were battery on a detention staff member. As a juvenile, that's a charge. It's a 3rd-degree felony. If you hit a detention center officer or somebody who is a program employee or administrator or whatever. And both times that I caught these charges, I was being restrained. As a matter of fact, one of the times I specifically remember that I caught this charge, it was in a Eckerd camp. So people from Florida really know the Eckerd camp. It's like a juvenile, program or whatever, level 6, level 8. They have both of them. Incarceration, some of them are incarcerated in the woods. Some of them, are inside, and they're all named after like Native American tribes and stuff, like the Osceola tribe, which would be this dorm. And like, anyways, long story short, I specifically remember one of the staff, like I said, I was wild, but I didn't swing on the staff. Both times I caught these charges in juvenile, I never swung on the staff. They had me in full restraint. And one of the times I specifically remember my neck was on the ledge of like a boardwalk going into the dorm. And that's where they were restraining me at. It was like right on the boardwalk going into the dorm, and my neck was on the ledge of the boardwalk, and I couldn't breathe. I was turning blue in the face. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was gonna pass out. So the only thing I could do was reach behind me and grab who was putting their knee in my neck and like just squeeze. And because I did that during getting restrained, it was a new charge. Battery on a detention staff member, which led me to two charges, and I ended up going to a new juvenile program. So like I said, 18 months in juvenile, dealing with the violence between the inmates and the abuse from the guards, it kind of hardened me. And by the time I went to prison at 18 years old, sentenced as a youthful offender, and I was hearing all these stories inside the jail about, you're going to have to swing on the biggest guys. So in Florida, we have what they call the youthful offender prisons: Brevard, Lancaster, Lake City, Indian River. And these are prisons that are run by the Department of Corrections, Florida Department of Corrections, but they only house, like, Indian River housed like 16-year-olds to 18-year-olds, I believe, and then Lancaster, Brevard, and Lake City was 18 to 25. So you can only imagine what it's like being around another 19-year-old or 18-year-old with 40 years, 50 years.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, let's go back to you. You had gotten out when you were still, whatever, 16 or before
17.
Okay,
I got out.
got out. You're still robbing or burglarizing places. Like what are you? One, did you graduate high school, get a GED, and what's your mom saying the whole time? And you're hanging out with your dad. So what's your mom saying? Is she just
there was really
washed her
nothing,
hands up like I just can't do this?
she didn't really wash her hands, because if she would have washed her hands, she wouldn't have been there every time I called.
Right.
Like every time I landed in a jail cell or every time I landed in a juvenile detention center and they gave me that one phone call, it was always mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And she always picked up. So I wouldn't say she washed her hands with me, but she gave up on trying.
Right.
I was extremely bad. We skipped by a lot of stuff, but dude, I was suspended from school, I would say 15 to 20 times, kicked out of 2 different schools before I landed into that juvenile program. And all of it from the violence that I was catching battery charges at school. I was 14 years old getting handcuffed by the school resource officer and taken to jail because some dude decided to take the ball from my girlfriend. And that's just the type of dude I was. It was so violent. And then, like I said, around 15, 16, I knew what it was. You know, I started hanging out with the homeboys. Gang relations. My neighborhood was heavy into gang affiliations with the Crips. And, like, a lot of the people who were joining these gangs are people that I've known since, like I said, I moved out of Sunrise to Pompano at like 7, 8, and these people are all people that I've known since that very young age. Like, we remember Men in Black coming out together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that we remember that in the movies as shorties. You know what I mean? And so by the time 15, 16, and I get out the juvenile program, they're all gangbanging and representing the neighborhood. And of course, I had no guidance, so I was head first.
So that gives you a feeling of community, feeling like a family. Yeah. We're all friends. We're all looking out for everybody. You don't
exactly, and it made me more of a criminal because, mind you, at that young age, I'm just catching battery charges, little petty car burglaries here and there. You know, not catching anything serious. And then I get out the juvenile program, and I was away from my homeboys for like 18 months, and it was a vital 18 months, I would call it, because it's in 18 months where from the age of 15 to 17, you're maturing as a young teen. And they started learning new stuff. They were going in and out of juvenile and learning stuff from other people too. So by the time I got out, it's no more let's, break in this car, let's do this. It's let's go up top. Let's go 3 hours north. I think I know somebody who, has 42 gold bars in their safe.
Okay, so how do you end up back in? You said you go back in when you're like, what, 18? Like, what is that? What sends you back?
At 18,
and for how long?
So at 18 years old, I caught a burglary of an occupied dwelling along with a slew of other charges, which this is another occupied dwelling.
Is it like a home invasion or just somebody happened to be there?
So
or did you get
home
it knocked
invasion
down?
in Florida, it would be considered like I just kick the door in, push you to the side, and I'm invading your home.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
If I break in surreptitiously,
right,
without you knowing, if I break in and then you happen to pop up out of the bedroom, that would be burglary of an occupied dwelling. So 18 years old, and I'm with one of my homeboys that I had met in one of the level 2 schools that I had to go to.
Horrible, bro.
Yeah, horrible, dude. So when I got out of the juvenile program, like I said, 17, I had to go to a level 2 school where they drug test you, where if you don't go to school for 3 days, they put out a warrant for your arrest and send you to the juvenile detention center, and then the school will pick you up from the juvenile detention center. So it was that kind of school. Like, everybody was either just getting out of a program or like punched their teacher in the face at their normal school. You know what I mean? that type of school. And I met this dude at the school. We became real cool. And he told me about his connect who, quote unquote, had 9.5 ounces of in the closet. So I was interested. I was like, I know somebody that will buy all that right now, respectfully. Like, we don't even have to break it down or anything. And he's like, all right, well, we'll plan it for this weekend. And we planned it for that weekend, and we're in a stolen car at that. He had a stolen car, like some little piece of shit red Camry, and he comes, picks me up. We pull up to the house, and he gave me the affirmative. And this is why I'll never go off of somebody else's word again. But he gave me the affirmative. Listen, nobody's home. I was just here. I watched him leave. He's gone. He's not here. And when we pull up, I look at the driveway. The car's not there. So, of course, I'm believing him. Nobody's here. So we go to the front door and hit it with a Bob knock. Like I said, I do this. This is a religious thing when it came to breaking in houses, because I didn't like to break in houses where people were home. Because anything can happen. Dude, you can lose your life in a heartbeat, bro.
In Florida?
In Florida, you can lose your life in a heartbeat. And that's why I'm so surprised I'm here to this day with the amount of houses I've hit. But back on track, so we get to the house and hit it with a Bob knock, and the front door has like a deadbolt cover. So I can't get in. So I'm sitting there fidgeting with the door after we already knocked like 3-4 times, fidgeting with the door, can't get in. So he's like, let's try around back. So I'm like, bet. We walk around back. I was the smaller person, so we seen a doggy door and like just a flap. Mm-hmm. So I was the smaller person. So naturally, it was me that came up for selection to, instead of breaking the sliding glass door and go through the other side of the back house where the doggy door is and just go in. So I was like, fuck it, all right. I get on my hands and knees and I start fucking crawling through the doggy door. As I'm crawling through the doggy door, this little mutt comes up to me. I don't even know what it was. It wasn't a very intimidating dog, I can tell you that. And it starts barking at me like as I'm coming through the little doggy door. And when it barks at me, like, it's kind of intimidating because I'm on my hands and knees and I'm looking at a dog directly in the face, but I just start growling at it back, like that, and the dog just goes away, right? I shit you not. I start growling at it. I was a bad fucking kid. So I start fucking growling at the dog. The dog runs away, and I make it through. I unlock the door, and they had so when I mentioned the sliding glass door, there's a regular door and a sliding glass door. The reason we didn't want to break the sliding glass door because they had like a stick, old school style, in the back of the sliding glass door, so you would have to break it. You couldn't just lift it off the track and get in. Anyway, so I open the door, he comes in, and we start raiding the house. And I'm a burglar. I know we only came here for the but I'm taking everything. Right. I'm not leaving anything shy. Right.
Not leaving money on the table.
No, there's no point. I'm already committed. I'm already here. We're already inside. I can't leave that pretty diamond ring on the table or anything of that nature. So I start with the first room. I start hitting the first room. As I'm hitting the first room, he's going to where the is at to grab the, and literally, I finish hitting the first room. I have jewelry all in my pockets and shit like that. And I'm walking out into the hallway and I'm like, hey, bro, did you grab it? And he's like, yeah. And as I say that, there's another bedroom. The door opens and some lady walks out with another little small dog. This one a bit smaller than the one that was barking at me. This one looked like a little poodle or something in her hand. And she looks at me and I look at her and I'm like, oh shit, time to go, bro. And as I say that, he comes out and he sees her. She locks eyes, she screams, and she runs to the opposite side of the house where the garage is at. And she shuts the door. And by that time, I don't know what she did after that, because we were hauling the fuck ass out of the house. Because like I said, we don't like to hit houses with people home. Yeah. I'm not I was violent, but violent in my neighborhood with other violent individuals.
Yeah, you're not trying to beat up
I'm not trying to
citizen.
lay some old lady down with her dog and beat her up or nothing like that. So we run. We get the hell out of there. And he takes off in one direction. I take off in another, right? He, I don't know yet, gets caught very shortly after. Me, I take off in a different direction and I start following this canal line. And as I'm following the canal line, I have all this jewelry and shit in my pocket. I don't have the 9 ounces. He has the 9.5 ounces. And I'm thinking to myself, like, fuck, I need to link back up with him. And this was before the cell phone era. So it wasn't like I could just pull out my cell phone and be like, hey, where you at? You know what I mean? So I'm walking the fucking canal line for a good hour. And then I'm like, man, I think to myself, there's this like fucking palm tree bush that like spreads out. And I think to myself, should I ditch everything in this bush?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start thinking to myself, I'm like, because I'm tired at this point. I'm like, man, I've been walking for an hour. Ain't no fucking way I'm going to ditch this shit and come back later for it because it's been an hour. If they're going to catch me, they would have caught me already, right? So I keep the fucking jewelry on me like a fucking asshole. And I keep walking for about 100 feet and I see a little opening to the main street. And I go through that opening to that main street. I shit you not. I get out onto the sidewalk on the main street on University and I start walking for, I would say, less than 50 feet before a cop car pulls up behind me and holds me there on the scene, empties my pockets, finds the jewelry, says that he already has my homeboy, right? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't hit no house. This is my jewelry. This came from my house. What are you talking?
Everybody carries around all their jewelry. In their pocket.
Right? You know, just like a dumbass. And I'm like, man, this is my shit. This is mine. Nah. And he's like, all right, well, you're going to stay right here. And he detained me, had me in handcuffs, right? Puts me in the back of his car. And then another unit pulls up. And like I said, he already told me that my homeboy went to jail. So I'm thinking, damn, did he get caught with the coke?
Right.
And that was more important than the rings and shit that I had on me. And
more important that you guys get away with it, or more important that if you got caught with it, because I mean, if you get caught with it, it's gone. If you got it, I mean, either way, I feel like either way you're in trouble, or do you feel like you get charged more? If
so
he's
I
got
was
the coke?
18 at the time, so like I was under the impression that anything I do, I'm gonna get back out.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
You just want to be able to go back and have access to that.
Exactly. So just like I was thinking about stashing the jewelry and coming back for it later, I'm in my head when he tells me that such and such went to jail. In my head, I'm like, I wonder if he stashed the fucking before they picked him up. Because, like I said, I'm 18. I'm used to in and out. I was catching heavy charges and I was going in and out. I would spend a couple months in a program or a juvenile detention center. Like I said, the longest stretch being 18 months.
But now you're 18.
Now I'm 18 and I'm not ready for it. And I've actually spoke on this quite a few times that I feel like the juvenile system is a setup for failure. Ultimately, the way they take leniency on some of the charges, yes, it's a juvenile, and I understand leniency needs to be involved, but it sets you up for failure, especially when you're a juvenile that's constantly involved in crime because you're getting slaps on the wrist every time you're getting charged. 5 days in juvenile, 10 days in juvenile, 21 days, level 6 program for 9 months. You know what I mean? But you're always back out. You're never hearing these Buck Rogers dates that I started hearing at 18 with 30 years, 40 years, 55 years. So these dates aren't equivalent right now. I'm 18, just turned 18. Anyways, the police, they come up. I'm sitting in the back of the car, and like I said, I'm telling them it's not me. This is my jewelry. It's not me.
Right.
And he calls another officer in the area. The other unit comes up. He gets me out of the car while I'm still handcuffed in the middle of University Drive, still handcuffed, gets me out of the car, flags traffic to go the other way, and has another cop car pull up, I would say like 20 feet in front of me. And I can't really see him, but I know there's a person in the passenger seat of the cop car,
Right.
which is the lady that was holding her dog.
Okay.
So they brought the lady to the scene where they stopped me to positively identify me as the person that broke in her home. I go to jail. I sit in jail for, I would say, 10, 11 months fighting the charge. I'm 18. I'm trying to get a youthful offender sentence. I had tried the psych route at first. I was like, shit, I have history of mental health. What if I put, from juvenile detention centers and programs, I'm like, what if I, put myself on medication and, try to play the mental health route? Didn't work. 10 months in the county jail. ended up getting a youthful offender sentence with a public defender. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have had a public defender. But like I said, I was a petty criminal, you know, in and out of jail. And, you know, I had a few big licks under my belt that I hadn't been caught for. But all in all, if it's not a couple $1 million, you're a petty criminal.
Right.
And
so what about your buddy? I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but what about your buddy? Like,
So
are you in there with him?
no, we're in separate cells. We end up going to the police station, and then we ended up going to the jailhouse. But he was underage. He was 17. So we got put in separate pods. He was being direct filed, so he was on the 5th floor in the main jail while they sent me to North Broward. Because at first I was at the main jail, but remember I said I tried to get put on medication to try to play that route. So they sent me to North Broward, and North Broward is like medical, psychiatric, violent, all of the above they house at North Broward, right? So they sent me to North Broward. So we're in separate jails. And he ends up he was actually on probation. When he caught this charge with me at 17, he was on probation for an attempted murder. He had stabbed somebody in school. And that's why he was going to the school that I was going to. And him catching the burglary of an occupied dwelling with me gave him a violation. So they sentenced him to 8 years because they reopened his attempted murder, which still is not bad. I mean,
right.
He had
Yeah,
an attempted he had an attempted murder charge for stabbing a kid like in broad day in the middle of the hallway, stabbed the kid at school. Could have took the kid off this earth.
Right.
And he, you know, they gave him like probation with the juvenile school that we were going to. Like I said, it's a pretty strict school. You can't skip. You skip, you get a warrant out for your arrest. You test positive for any type of or anything.
Violation.
Warrant out for your arrest. Yeah. So and they're in close contact with your juvenile probation officer. So he catches this burglary occupied with me, and they sentence him to 8 years. And me, like I said, if I would have known better at the time, I would have had a private lawyer. It was only my mom raising 2 boys. There's no way I could ask her for a private lawyer because she would just be like, boy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she was struggling. It was just her by herself paying all the bills. And so I ended up going up with a public defender, and the public defender convinces me after sitting in the county jail like 9 or 10 months, convinces me, hey, you're 18, dude. Let's go for a youthful offender sentence. The most they can give you is 6 years in prison. And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing 6 years in prison. Not for no burglary of an occupied dwelling. I'm only 18. This is my first charge as an adult. I'm not doing that, right? And he's like, look, I can get it, you know, lower than 6 years in prison, but it's the Youthful Offender Act requires a 6-year sentence. So if the judge gets you, if we get you approved, the motion for downward departure under the Youthful Offender Act, if we get this approved, your max can only be 6 years. So they can give you 1 year prison, 5 years probation.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just has to equal out to a 6-year period. And I went up and I open plead thinking, you know, I even had my grandpa, God bless the dead. I had my grandpa, my mom had him come in and, you know, give like a good 30-minute speech about, you know, that he can be my boot camp officer and he can be my probation officer. He can be all of that's how my grandpa was. He's ex-military. He comes in, he's like, I can be all of the above. I'll straighten him out, judge, this, that, and the third. Judge wasn't going for it. Judge Pedro de Joes, he wasn't going for it. Sentenced me to 3 years Florida State prison at 18 years old, followed by 2 years community control, followed by 1 year probation. So a 6-year sentence, all in all. He gave me 3 Florida State prison.
You already done almost a year though, or roughly a year, right?
About 9-10 months, yeah.
Okay.
So not that much time left, but still, it's a lot bigger than what I'm used to dealing with as a juvenile. Mm-hmm. You know, as a juvenile, I'm used to a couple slaps on the wrist. You know, maybe, you know, the judge will give you some leniency, let you go home program or something like that. And that was the impression that I was, you know, under, like maybe I'll get some probation or just a year time served.
Right, because you're used to getting, like you said.
So they hit me with this 3 years. And like I said, it's 3 followed by 3. And
What's the 3 that is followed by? You said
2 years community control.
What does that mean?
So community control means I have to go. It's kind of like probation, but a lot stricter.
Right.
I have to fill out a weekly schedule. So I had to do this I did it for 5 months before I violated. But you would fill out a weekly schedule, and your weekly schedule would consist like 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and you would just write what you're doing all of those hours of the day. You couldn't leave your house unless it was church, a haircut, grocery store. You could do church once a week, grocery store once a week, haircut once a week, probation, work if you work. I didn't work, you know what I mean?
Are you on like an ankle monitor?
Some people do get put on ankle monitors for community control depending on the community control level. So if you're like level 1, they'll have you on strict GPS monitor. But if you're like level 3, what I got sentenced to, it's just you have to come every single Tuesday and fill out a weekly schedule, and your community control officer pops up once a month, unasked, unannounced at your house.
Drug test?
Yes, drug testing.
Okay. In the world of true crime, bad habits usually lead to bad outcomes, but it doesn't have to be that way. Meet FÜM, the flavored air device designed to help you ditch the bad habits and feel good about what you're reaching for. No nicotine, no vapor, no batteries, just an awesome design and delicious flavor like crisp mint, peachy blush, and cinnamon hearts. I like how it feels. Smooth, fidget friendly. You can even twist it to adjust the airflow. FÜM has already helped over 700,000 people take steps towards better habits. And now it's your turn. Use our code COX to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfum.com. That's tryfum.com. Use code COX to claim your limited time offer today.
That was my sentence, was 3 in, followed by 2 community control, followed by an additional year probation, right? And I hear all these stories in the county jail. Like I said, I've been sitting in the county like 9, 10 months, and I hear all these stories about YO camps in the state of Florida. And like I said, a violent upbringing, I'm like, okay, I'm hearing these stories and I'm taking it in. People are saying, hey man, if somebody tries you, pop off on them immediately. Don't let nobody try you. And then, pick the biggest guy, or you're going to have to join a gang. Florida's all about, down south versus up north, or Bloods versus Crips, and this, that, and the third.
This is horrible, bro.
Right. So
this is horrible.
And
I would never fucking survive.
So it's
my wife's shaking her head. She's like, no, you wouldn't.
It's a wild, bro. I had a wild. So
fucking horrible, bro.
I'm hearing all these stories and the gang stuff, and I'm in my head I'm like, shit, I already got gang affiliations on the street. I'm not gonna I'm gonna rep my shit when I get there, and that's just what it is. But it wasn't too much of a thought because I didn't know how heavily gang politics were in prison. Like I said, I'm 18, sat in the county 9, 10 months, never been to prison, let alone a youthful offender prison, a prison that houses 18 to 25 youthful offenders. And craziest thing ever, I'm like I said, 18, sentenced to those 3 years. Next week, the Bluebird comes and picks me up my first day. And this was before Florida housed you with people who appropriated to your time. So like if I had like 5 years, you should have like 7 years as my bunkie in the cell. You shouldn't have a life sentence, right? This was before all that, because that came into effect because a kid died. His bunkie beat him to death, and his bunkie had life, and he was getting out in like 2 weeks. That's why that law came into effect. But it wasn't in effect for me yet. Like I said, I'm older. So I get to South Florida Reception Center, and I got all this stuff running through my head. Pick the biggest guy. If he try you, I'm used to being the one that's a target because, like I said, I'm white. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. I had to prove myself to my peers growing up. So it's not new to me going into this environment and thinking that I got to prove myself to these other dudes.
Right.
But as we're walking to B dorm, side 1, 2, and 3, the whole rec yard is coming in. So all the kids that have been there, I wouldn't even say kids because we're grown-ass adults. We're over the age of 18. Some of these people have 40, 50 years. This will be their life for the rest of their life. And they're all coming in off the rec yard. And there was a Latino dude with me. and he got most of the stares. I didn't get too many stares. Surprisingly, as they're coming in off the rec yard, I'm thinking, people are going to be eyeing me down as they're coming into the dorm because I'm sitting right here where the slab is with my big ass sheet with all my property in it with a couple other people. And I'm thinking, somebody going to say something to me. That's the one I'm going to handle when the doors pop and, we're off lockdown or whatever because they're coming in off rec. And surprisingly, I didn't get too many crazy stares, but the Latino brother that was with me, man, all the Latinos were staring at him. One thing about South Florida, even as a juvenile and as an adult, with Latinos, like as soon as a Latino sees another Latino, especially if there's not that many Latinos in the dorm, hey, where you from? Blah, 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 blah. And they're very they will look out for each other 100%. Besides Latinos, there is no race politics in Florida, I would say the Latinos are the only people that have race politics in Florida. So that Chico, he was getting, a couple evil stares here and there. So the guard, everybody goes in the dorm. The guard says, come on, you're going to cell such and such. So I'm like, all right, bet. I go in my cell, close the door. My bunky's sitting there. I throw my stuff up. And he's like, hey, man, what's your name? And I'm like, they call me Brandon. This is before I earned the PNO nickname. I was like, they call me Brandon. And he was like, oh, what you in here for? I'm like, shit, burglary, occupied dwelling, grand theft, a couple other things. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I hear a boom, boom, boom pound at the door and a lit cigarette comes under the door. Mind you, I'm fresh out of the county jail, so cigarettes is like, being smoked is like, okay, cool. We have cigarettes. We can smoke cigarettes. At this time, cigarettes were in the canteen. Dude throws him a cigarette under the door. And he's like, he starts puffing on the cigarette. I'll never forget it. He's like, my name's Reek. And I'm like, what's up, dog? He's like, where you from? I'm like, I'm from Pompano. He was like, oh, I'm from Palm Beach. And we start chit-chatting, just small stuff, about like streets and what you've been up to on the street and blah, blah, blah. And then I would say about 20 minutes into the conversation, I asked him, what you in here for? And he says, man, I'm never getting out. And this is another 19-year-old kid that's talking to me. So it kind of it blows me when he says this, it blows me back. I'm sitting on the locker looking at him and he's like, I'm never getting out. And I'm like, what you mean you never getting out? Stop playing. He's like, bro, I got a life sentence. This is before the Juvenile Life Act, this is when they were giving juveniles life. Right. And he was like, I got a life sentence. So I'm like, man, you fucking lying. You're lying to me. And he's like, nah, and he shows me his paperwork. His story is crazy. And like I said, this is my first time in prison, first bunkie, life sentence. And his story is crazy. He gets into an argument with his girlfriend, and she didn't like him toting guns. And he came into her house with a gun one day, and they got into an argument over the gun, and she tried to pull it out of his hand. And when she tried to pull it out of his hand, shot her right in the face, died. And he got sentenced to life, But this was my first bunkie. So it kind of gave me an eye-opener to you're dealing with some people that ain't never going home.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I would say iron sharpens iron, man. If you're around a rough environment, dude, you're just forced to be rough. And that was just my whole juvenile bid was rough. I tons of fights, wild camps, they can be fun. I mean, there's times where for hours on end, all the gangs or different affiliations are getting along and people are laughing, gambling. And then there's times where it's just you could walk into a dorm and feel the tension.
Right.
You can literally walk into, I've walked into a dorm before, and I'm just going to give you an example. I've walked into a dorm when the Zoes were beefing with the GDs on the compound. And like I said, I was a Crip and from the street. So when I go in, of course, my affiliation is going to be with the Crips. And with the GDs on the compound, we were tied with them. As Crips, we were tied with the folks on the compound. So if they got into something, we had to get into something too. And I literally remember we were on control movement. People were getting popped left and right. And when I say popped, it was just random acts of violence. We'll be walking to chow, somebody will sneak through the line with a lock and just smash somebody in the face with it, or sneak through the line with a poker and start stabbing them. And They start taking off running across the compound because it's a big compound. And man, Wild Camp was a wild experience. Like I said, as much as violence as there is, there's always fun times too. And it sounds crazy to be saying it, but like where everybody's vibing, playing cards, and you know, your mind's not even thinking about the streets.
Yeah, no, I was just say when I was in the U.S. Marshals holdover, there was a guy this guy had been in. It was one of those things that every story he had was just fucking insane. You know, he'd gone to the state. Now he was doing his federal sentence, and I would two things. One, I remember saying, bro, I keep my element locked up like maybe 5 months, 4 months. I go, I don't think I can do this. And he goes, well, that's the great thing about this, bro. You don't have to do it. And I go, well, what do you mean? They're going to make you do it. Because all you have to do is keep yourself occupied. He said, keep yourself entertained. And at first I thought, what a dick. He was a dick. But then you go to prison, you realize, no, he's right. Yeah. They tell you, go to lunch, go do this. You just do it, just do it. And don't think about it, don't argue. But the other thing he said is, you know, you don't believe this right now. He said, but there will be times during your prison sentence. And this is when everybody's telling me I'm going to get that 3 or 4 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm still new, so I don't really know what I'm facing.
Right.
And he was like, there will be times during your bid, he said, that you will be sitting around with a bunch of guys laughing your ass off and thinking to yourself, there's nowhere I'd rather be. These are great guys. This is a great time. This is amazing. And I remember looking at him thinking, you're out of your fucking mind. Like,
dude,
that's never going to happen.
It sounds crazy to a person who's never been incarcerated. It sounds crazy, but
then it happens.
Yeah, there's been well over fucking 15, 20 times during my incarceration where I've laughed so hard I was crying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you meet a lot of different personalities. Over my time incarcerated, over 10 years in Florida State Prison, I met thousands of different characters and individuals. You know what I mean? And some people rub off on you. Like anything in life, some people rub off on you. But those 3 years, nothing positive came out of that 3-year youthful offender sentence for me. I ended up going to the youthful offender prison for 3 years, and the whole 3 years I was wilding out, involved in gang politics. At this time, the youthful offender system had shifted from, before I was there, it was a lot of like up north, like, you know, Tampa beefing with South Florida, or Dade County beefing with Jacksonville. It was a lot of like territorial beef inside the prison. But when I got to prison, a lot of that shifted over to gangs. Right. And it was a lot of Bloods, it was a lot of Crips, it was a lot of GDs. There was a fresh gang called Cutthroat Committee, which was out of Jacksonville. There was also like MPRs, which were out of Tampa, Arnett's, which were out of St. Pete. So it's just a lot of gang activity, and like I said, nothing came productive of it.
What was the administration at any time, like, were they trying to I hate to say, you know, rehabilitate, but were there any kind of programs where they're trying to say, hey, you're a 19, 20-year-old kid, like, you know, hey, maybe you should, you know, I mean, I know they try and make you get your GED, right?
Yeah, so you have to go to school. If you don't have a GED, you're forced to go to school inside them. I've actually got several DRs for not going to school, and locked in confinement several times for not going to school. They will lock your ass up for not going to school, for not working. Everything's the same as Florida Department of Corrections. It's just more of a level of construction for youths. So they offer the GED program for free. Perchance in the adult system, you don't get that for free. But the violence, there was programs. I'm not gonna lie. There was like a carpentry program. There was a masonry program, and it was just a program where they have these inmates, you know, laying brick around the building, or, you know, possibly cutting a patch out of the roof and laying a new piece of 2x4 or something like that into the roof, and that was their, you know, skill set that they learned while there. But if you were involved in gang politics and you were, you know, just not a square, I would say. And we're all in prison, so at the end of the day, you know. But if you were involved in gang politics, you never had a chance to join like a carpentry or a masonry, because you were always in trouble, always getting DRs, always in and out of confinement. And with that, you're not allowed to go into those program units. or program dorms or even programs in general with DRs. So that's what they look at. They grab your time and they'll be like, okay, such and such, you've been in prison 6-7 months. We'll put you in the carpentry program. You haven't had a DR in 6-7 months. So it's more of a behavior thing. Like if you're good, they'll let you attend those programs. But I was never good. I was always in and out of confinement, always catching DRs. Never got the chance to participate in any programs such as like, GED program or carpentry or masonry. And even then, like the prison was racist. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it was run by like 400-pounders. Drink my beer and hit my wife type. Like that was the type of people that ran the prison. Like Billy, who drove a pickup truck and had cows in front of his house. That was the type of people who ran the prison.
Yeah, they live in double and single wides that are around the perimeter.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very country town. Do your homework. Lancaster, Florida. The KKK actually had a presence in Lancaster, Florida. So that's where a lot of the racism from the guards towards inmates come from. And when I say racist, dude, they don't, unless you're from the country or the sticks and you're white,
right?
They don't like you. Me, I'm from the city. They don't like me. Automatically grew up around a lot of black people. They don't like me. It
may even be worse for you.
Bro, the only people, and where I'm getting at is the only people that really had good jobs on the compound where they could learn skill sets were like the Aryans and the little white prides and stuff like that, because they played so good up under the officers that the officers would give them the good jobs.
Right.
But as far as like, if you were from down south, you weren't getting a good job, period. They don't like people from down south, from South Florida. When I say down south, I say I'm speaking on South Florida because we're still in Florida. Mm-hmm. We're just in Hicktown. You know what I mean? And Lancaster, they don't, if you're from like Jacksonville, Tampa, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, any one of the major cities, it don't matter if you're white, black, Spanish, or other. You're a target to the COs.
Not if you're from Okeechobee. If you're from Okeechobee, you should be good.
Okeechobee, you should be, depending on what side of Okeechobee. Okay. Fort Drum, you might be good. You know what I mean? But
so when do you get out? You're saying there was nothing good came from it. You get out, you're even worse.
I said, nothing good came of it. I just learned how to be a criminal even more. Like I said, just like my juvenile program, when I got out, I just learned how to be a better criminal, I would say. Learned a lot of knickknacks, hear a lot of stories here and there. All in all, just learned how to be a better criminal, I guess, or more of a criminal. I wouldn't even say a better criminal because I land wildest thing. After getting out of them 3 years, I wind up back in jail 5 months later. And this is where I'm facing 15 mandatory now. So, yeah, I was only free 5 months before I caught another bid. Like I said, 3 years incarcerated in youthful offender prisons, still under the Department of Corrections. So you're still under the big boy system. You're just incarcerated with people your age. And the violence, the being confined, in and out of confinement cells, I didn't learn anything. At one point, I actually spent 120 days in confinement. I caught 2 60-day DRs back to back and spent 120 days in confinement at the age of 19 years old. So it was just wild. And now pushing forward, I'm 21, getting ready for release. From 18 to 21, I do the 3-year bid, and I'm getting ready for release. And I like I said, I spent 4 months in confinement, 120 days, and I'll never forget, and I brought that up for a reason, because I'll never forget I was about 3 months into my confinement, disciplinary confinement time, and I would always mouth off. I would be like, the officer would come in and shout something. We're all locked behind the door. We're in confinement, but he would shout something, such and such, you have an interview at 6, blah, 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 get your stuff ready, and I'd just be like on the door like, F you, you know what I mean? Just like, I was just a troublemaker. I never learned anything. And he comes up to my door. I'll never forget this officer, this older white gentleman with white hair. He comes up to my door and he was like, I've been dealing with you for about a year now. He said, I see your release date says you're getting out in a few months. He said, I'll see you in a few months. And I looked at him like, nah, you ain't gonna see me, motherfucker. Da, 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 da. Fuck you. I'm getting out. I'm gonna go fuck your daughter. Da, 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 da. And I just started going crazy, you know, talking my shit. And he's like, I've seen 100 of you come and go. And hopefully when you come back, you don't have a release date of 99999. And I'll never forget that shit. I'll never forget it because, and I didn't think about it until I got rearrested. And when I got rearrested, I was sitting in a cell, and I remember thinking to myself, when I was in prison the first time, that officer came up to my door and said, you won't last but a few months on the street. You'll be back, and hopefully you're not back with a life sentence. And I was sitting in that cell, and that shit just stuck with me, man. And it didn't, I didn't even think about it. Like I said, I didn't think about it until 5 months later when I land back in jail. And I my whole 7 years, I thought about that officer that told me, you'll be right back in a few months.
Well,
it was my attitude, bro.
Yeah.
I got out at 21 head first. Couldn't even, so remember I said I was on community, I got 3 years Florida State prison, followed by 2 years community control, followed by a year probation.
Yeah.
And the 2 years community control, I get out, and I mentioned earlier that my grandpa went to court for me, and we made a plan to where I had some money, and my grandpa used that money to buy a camper for me and put it on his property. He had maybe 1.5 acres up in Palm City, and his plan was for me to get out of prison, come live on his property, get my life together. At the age of 21, you know, he had visions for me. He wanted to see me, and this is, God bless the dead, this is my grandpa's exact words. His visions for me was to be riding down the street with a very good job, a convertible, and a bad hot chick in the passenger seat. That was my grandpa's dream for me, to be a law-abiding citizen, make good money, get a convertible, you know, have a bad chick, create a family. And I'll never forget, my grandpa used to say that to me all the time. But like I said, I got out head first, and it started out slow. The first week or two, I'm out. I'm on community control. I'm scared to even go to the mailbox. You know what I mean? For the first week or two.
Yeah.
Then I started meeting people around the area. I'm not from Palm City. I'm from down south. I'm from Broward County. So I started meeting people from Palm City. And like I
Palm
said,
Cities were just underneath
Stewart.
Is it just underneath Jacksonville?
It's just underneath Port St. Lucie.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's south. So it's just it's like Stewart area, Martin County. So I didn't know anybody from that area, and I started meeting people in that area, and I started like getting more ballsy. You know, I ended up meeting a girl, and the girl had a whip. And I start sneaking out at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because, like I said, I had community control, but not with an active monitor. So I would sneak out at like 1, 2 in the morning. We'd go out to the clubs, we'd party, we'd hang out. And this one night, I was out, and I'm 21 at the time. And I was out, and I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I get a call from my grandpa, and he's like, your community control officer's here. Where are you at?
At what time?
Like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So it's wild. They pop up at any time. They sometimes they'll go out at 9 o'clock with their whole roster of people that are on community control, and they'll drive from 9 o'clock till 4 or 5 in the morning, going from house to house doing their random pop up. Because like I said, on community control, they come to your house once a month. And I had been sneaking out here and there, going to the clubs, hanging out. And this one night, 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, I get a call. Where are you at? Your community control officer's here. I'm like, you're shitting me. Like, I'm not shitting you. They're asking for you. You need to get here within the next 5 minutes, is what she said. And I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm 45 minutes away. I'm in Port St. Lucie at a fucking club. I'm cooked.
Right.
So the girl I was with, she was real cool, and I told her what was going on. She actually was fresh out of prison herself off of a 3-year bid for trafficking in Hollywood. And I tell her what's going on, and I'm like, look, I'm cooked. I can't go back. They're gonna bring me to jail if I go back. And she's like, but you don't have none of your stuff, this, that, and the third. I'm like, it's all good. My grandpa will handle it. Somebody will handle it. I said, I need you to bring me to Broward. She's like, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. She's like, I'm not going to Broward tonight. She lives in Lake Worth.
Right.
So she's like, I'll drive you to my house in Lake Worth and you could spend the night and then we'll figure it out in the morning. So we drive to Lake Worth, 45 minutes south to Lake Worth. And we get to Lake Worth and I spend the night. Next morning, I tell her, I'm like, look, my homeboy, because I had that whole night I spent on my phone. I was like,
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use code Cox at the checkout.
I gotta find a place to stay. I gotta duck off. They're coming back for me. Like I said, I only been out 5 fucking months, you know? So it's like 5 months? I'm not trying to go back.
Yeah, but you were going back.
Yeah, so
Or you just thinking hang out, stay out as long as possible.
stay out as long as possible is the goal. This is about 2.5 months into my community control where I get the call.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to Lake Worth. That night, I sit on my phone all night and I start contacting people I grew up with from like Facebook or whatever the MySpace it was at the time. And lo and behold, my homeboy, he's like, I got a trap over here in Pompano. You can come spend the night. You know, we can put you back on your feet. So I'm like, all right.
That'll never get busted. Nobody will be watching that.
Not only was it a trap, but it was a foreclosed house. What he would do is find foreclosed houses and he would pay the electric bill on the foreclosed house. So when the police come, and these are houses that the bank owns.
Yeah.
So when the police come and tell you to leave, he goes like this. You can't tell me to leave. I have an electric bill in my name here.
Right. I have to be evicted.
Yep. And they have to give him 30 to 60 days or however long the eviction process was.
Who knows how long the bank will take it all.
This was
even...
a 3-bedroom townhouse,
Oh, yeah.
bro. Big townhouse.
He could
and
be there
he was
months.
like, bro, you could. He was there almost 2 years. Yeah. Right. So fully furnished, everything. So we get to the trap. I end up getting back into Broward. We get to the trap house, and he's like, look, I'm not rich. I'm not working with too much, and he slides me, a couple ounces of, back then ecstasy pills were a big thing. Slides me 100-pack of ecstasy pills. And the plan is to take these ecstasy pills. He soups me up on the plan. He's like, look, Ultrafest is coming up. A lot of these raves and these big festivals are coming up. We're going to go out there. We're going to sell stuff. We're going to make our money. And that was the whole MO for like 5 months and 4 months. I would say about 4 months. The time remaining I was there, that was the MO, was sell a little bit of pills, get my money. And then the MO became, the money's not coming fast enough. I'm going to have to start going back up top or finding a jeweler or finding somebody to hit. And I got involved with more and more people, and I would say this was my mistake because I'm on the run. Mm-hmm. I get involved with more and more and more and more people, phone ringing off the hook, between people wanting ecstasy, people wanting to sell things, people wanting to, get off of a new PlayStation or something like that. We're in the trap. We want everything we can get, especially a PlayStation or something like that. So I start connecting with more people, and I would say that was my ultimate downfall, because a girl that I ended up connecting with was selling me a lot of stuff. She would bring me like the the brand new Motorola phone. She brought it to me. She stole a Motorola phone, and it was unlocked. I was able to, just small stuff. I'm giving an example. I was able to go to the Metro store and get it put in my name, and so on and so forth. And the girl had hit a lick, and she comes to me. She wants some pills. So I'm like, all right, what you got? She's like, I got this. I got a flat screen TV at this time. I wanted a flat screen TV because I wasn't really doing like small burglaries. Like I wasn't snatching down flat screens. Like I was more focused on jewelry. Like I said, jewelry was the number one priority. And I had just moved into my homie's trap. I want a flat screen TV. So I ended up giving her 5 pills. These were blues at the time. I ended up giving her 5 pills for the flat screen. And she gets roped up, like, I would say 3 or 4 days after she sells me the flat screen. 3 or 4 days, she gets roped up. She tells the police where she gave the flat screen to, and that I, Brandon, have a warrant for my arrest and that I'm on the run. And she gives them, because of course she thinks it's gonna help her.
Yeah.
To give somebody that has warrants for their arrest and involved in crime and this, that, and the third. So she tells the police, she gives the police a big long down run about he's got drugs, he's got this, he's got that. Also, he's got a warrant for his arrest. He's on the run. The police run down on me. They charge me with, not only do they charge me with a bunch of small charges like possession and possession of cannabis, possession of MDMA. They end up charging me with the burglary that the TV comes from. Now, mind you, I'm a burglar. I got no problem admitting my MO and saying that I robbed the house. I didn't rob this house.
Right.
But because I'm on community control, violated, on the run, the property's in my house, they charge me. Boom.
Yeah.
So they give me an ad charge. With that ad charge, because I'm on community control, it can open up my previous case because it's not finished.
Right.
So the 3 years followed by 2 years community control, 1 year probation is now back on the table because I violated. I did not complete the sentence. I violated with a new charge. Now, the new charge, it lands me in jail. Not only does it land me in jail, but it lands me under and I have no idea, but it lands me under the Prison Release Reoffender Act. So what that means is if you commit any violent crime within getting out of prison, within 3 years of getting out of prison, if you commit any violent crime in the state of Florida, you fall under the Prison Release Reoffender Act. So whatever the maximum is for that charge, if it's aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, say the max is 30 years, that's your minimum mandatory now. So burglary was one of the few charges that the state of Florida under the Prison Release Reoffender Act considered violent because somebody can be home and it can turn into a violent situation. So it's listed under the PRR Act. So the one burglary had me sitting at a 15 mandatory. Dude, I sat in the county jail, that case, sat in the county jail. Like I said, got out 5 months later, back in jail with a new burglary charge, violation of community control, and they're offering me 15 years. This is the offer. It's 15 years. Take it or leave it or go to trial, right? I get on the phone, I cry to mama and grandma. I'm like, grandma, I never asked grandma for nothing, ever. My whole life, never asked grandma for nothing unless it was like Christmas or something like that. You know what I mean? I get on the phone and I cry to them. I'm like, look, I might be gone for 15 more years. I need help. I need a lawyer. I can't let what happened to me last time happen to me again because the nature of the crime is really not that serious. It's a second-degree felony. Nobody was hurt. You know what I mean? It's a theft. It's a theft crime.
But it triggered a minimum mandatory.
It triggered a minimum mandatory because I had just got out of prison 5 months prior. So I fell under the Prison Release Reoffender Act. So my mom and my grandma, like I said, we come from a lower class, middle class family, and like they scrounged up what they could to retain me a lawyer. And I sat in the county jail for 10 months before the lawyer, Gabriella Novo, comes up to me. She comes up to me and she says, just sign for the 15 years. They got you dead to the wrong. This is what my
You
paid...
could have had a public defender tell you
This
that.
is what my paid lawyer is telling me, right? I snap. I go off the hooks. I've already been sitting in the county jail, hot minute. Only was out 5 months, 3 years incarcerated before that. I snap. I go off the hook. Get the fuck out of my face. This, that, and the third. I call my mom. I tell my mom what she said. My mom starts crying because they scrounged up their last to retain me, this lawyer. Starts crying. For a couple months, I had no lawyer, bro. Sitting in the county jail. No lawyer, no representation, not knowing when I'm getting out. State offering me 15 mandatory years. I've at one point, I've even called my wife, who I'm with right now. I knew her back then, too.
Mm-hmm.
I called her and was like, just go live your life. They're trying to give me 15 mandatory. Just go live your life. You know what I mean? And it only progressed and it got worse. On my 12th month in the county, I go before Judge Levinson, who was a sit-in judge on my case. He wasn't even my main judge. And I put my hand up and I asked to speak, and the judge's like, what? And I'm like, Your Honor, I've been sitting in jail 12 months. I'm ready to go to trial on the new charge. And then, handle the violation after that. He said, who's your lawyer? I said, I don't have one. He said, State, what does he face? And the state was like, Your Honor, he violated probation with everything accumulated, 50 years, Florida Department of Corrections. That's 5-0. That's 50. 50. I've never heard a Buck Rogers Day offered to me like this. This is what the state tells the judge. Your Honor, he faces 50 years at trial. The judge looks at me. The judge says, I'm setting this for 2 weeks from now. We're gonna do your violation of probation first, and there will be no jury with your violation of probation. I will be the jury. See you in 2 weeks. So in so many words, he's telling me I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna wham bam boogie you with 50 years. I'm fucking terrified. Call back out to my mom. My mom calls out to several lawyers, and she managed to give the sob story of what happened to us to Michael Gottlieb. Anybody who knows Broward County knows that's a top defense lawyer. She gives the sob story to Michael Gottlieb. He's like, I'll work with you, do some payments with me, and I'll take your son's case. So Michael Gottlieb takes my case, and then as soon as he took my case, it was like everything in my life started turning for the better. And you're gonna think this is crazy, but so as soon as he takes my case, 2 weeks later, my co-defendant dies. The girl that pointed me out and was like, he's got warrants, go get him, this is where it's at. She dies. She's state's witness number 1.
Right.
She was not charged. She was placed in a program in agreement to testify against me because they wanted to stick that 15 mandatory to me.
Right.
She dies.
How does she?
So I get on the phone. And I'm talking to my old lady, and she's like, I got something to tell you. At this time, I'm in the main jail on the 6th floor. And she's like, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, what's up? She's like, I was scrolling through Facebook earlier, and somebody made a post and said, Rebecca's dead. I said, what? They said, yeah. Somebody made a post and said, Rebecca's dead. I said, contact them right now. Make sure it's real. Make sure this is not fake. Because again, she's their own state's witness number 1. She's their only witness. She's the reason why they're holding me. The case is not falling apart, right? So my old lady, I call her back like 10 minutes later. She's like, yeah, it's confirmed. She's dead, right? So that night, because your lawyer's number is usually free on the county jail phone, so your lawyer usually has an account with Securus or whatever, T-Netics, and you don't have to pay, and it's not recorded either. So I get on the phone and I call my lawyer that night, and I'm like, dude, you'll never believe this. And he's like, what? I'm like, Rebecca, she died. And he's like, no. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, isn't that their only witness? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, bet, I'm setting a court date for next week. So Michael Gottlieb, like I said, this dude's top of the line. He sets a court date for the next week. And When he sets the court date, we go in and they call my case. I'll never forget. Michael Gottlieb walks up there and he just has this strut of confidence. And he walks up there and he gets up to the podium and he's like, Your Honor, we're ready to go to trial. And the judge was like, looked at the state and was like, State, are you ready to go to trial? And the state's like, no, we're not ready to go to trial. And he's like, Your Honor, we're ready to go to trial by next week. The only testifiable witness is now deceased, so we would like to take this to trial. Literally, he said it just like that.
Right.
The only testifiable witness is now deceased, so we would like to take this to trial. The state started fumbling with their papers, and the judge set a court date for the next week. I get back to my jail cell. I call my mom. Later on that night, my mom tells me, hey, Michael called me. The state they're waiving the minimum mandatory. They're offering you 8 years Florida State prison, followed by 5 years probation. And at this time, I'm thinking about it.
Locked
I'm
up already
weighing
a
it.
year.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about it. I'm weighing it. I'm like, with game time, 85%. I have to do this amount of time. And I'm like, you know what? Call him and see if he can get it down to 7 years. And she calls him. He calls the prosecutor or emails her or whatever they were doing, how they were contacting each other. And I call back my mom later on again, and she's like, they said 7 years. I'm like, I'm taking it. Tell him I'm taking it. And the next week I had a court date. I was signing for 7 years, followed by 5 years probation, 7 years Florida State prison. So this time I'm on my way to the big boy house now. It's no more youthful offender. And in a way, I'm kind of relieved, because as you hear the stories about youthful offender prison and all the violence, and as you participate in all that, you also hear stories of how adult camp is so much different, how you can mind your business in adult camp and you can stay in your lane and you can shift under the radar, and it's totally different. Because in wild camp, as soon as you get into that compound, if you don't gangbang, you're getting pressed. You're getting pressed. There's 3 or 4 individuals coming up to you, sitting on your bunk next to you and asking you where you're from. You gonna break it off if you don't fight. And then you're gonna have to fight all 4 of them, 3 of them. Maybe you'll get a 1-on-1, maybe not. Maybe you'll get a 4-on-1. But you're gonna have to stand your ground until another gang in there or another clique comes up and be like, I like how you move. You can run with us. You know what I mean? So adult camp, just like I hear all these stories and I participated in it before I participated in the madness in the youthful offender prison. When I get to adult camp, I heard the same stories. Adult camp's totally different, laid back, you can move, you can make money. So it was kind of less stress on me going back to prison again. It was like, okay, I'm not gonna have to, be so violent and involved. I can actually get visitations and not go to confinement and spend majority of my time in confinement. Plus, I was happy to get out of the county jail. Anybody knows, in the county jail, bro, you eat like shit. You don't see the sunlight.
Sucks.
There's no movement. It's horrible, bro. It's next level horrible. But yeah, so I get this 7-year bid, and I go to prison. Back at South Florida, another roommate, 55 years, attempted murder on law enforcement officer. And he had a cane. He was shot by the police like 5 or 6 times, and then they brought him back to life. So imagine,
Right.
getting in a shootout with the cops. You shoot a cop, you get attempted murder, and instead of letting you die on the table, they bring you back to life to face this charge for shooting this cop. That was him. 55 years, yeah. So I get back at South Florida Reception Center, waiting on a permanent camp, and I'm getting the feel of things. I've never been to an adult prison, so I'm getting the feel of things. I'm seeing there's still gang activity, heavy gang activity, but it's not so much like violent gang activity. All the gang activity is revolving around money. So it's revolving around currency like K2, cigarettes, whatever people could get in. And I'm noticing that, and I'm like, okay, so I go with the flow. I end up getting to my permanent camp, and I get a connection for what we call them Cadillacs. So like Clippers. They're the brown, I believe they're like 305 or Clipper brand or whatever. They're brown cigarettes. And I had a connection to where I was getting packs of cigarettes in. So a lot of when I first got to prison, my time was kind of smooth. Money's flowing in, and I'm getting, you know, the gist of it. But yeah, those cigarettes that I speak of, dude, you could take one cigarette and cut it in 5 pieces and sell each piece for $2 on the compound. As more as I get into my bid, I started getting back heavily involved in gang politics. The first camp I wind up at is Santa Rosa Correctional Institution, which is one of the most notorious prisons in the state of Florida. And like I said, I found a cigarette connect there, so I was well versed with the compound. And I ended up getting because I was well versed with the compound, I ended up getting a good job. And this job opened my eyes to what the adult system could really be. I got assigned a job in the TCU unit. So I believe TCU stands for Therapeutic Care Unit or Transitional Care Unit. And it's a unit inside the prison, complete lockdown, but for the mentally unstable, like totally mentally unstable. Like I hit my wrist in front of an officer and blood went everywhere. So now they have to place you in this unit behind a locked door where they have 24-hour medical, 24-hour attention to like psychologists and they have like a shot they could stick in your ass. Mind you, I got cool with my connection, whom obviously is a CO, bringing in my cigarettes, the clippers, and because I got cool with him, I got this job in the TCU unit, which is considered a privilege. And dude, when I say this shit opened my eyes, so I'm an orderly. It's only one other person, and this is where I developed the name PNO. I was originally, like I said, everybody called me Brandon. I have no problem being called Brandon. You know, everybody called me Brandon my whole life. But I developed the name PNO during this job that I got in the prison system. So it was me and this dude named Obama. He was like 25 years old, 26 years old, and he looks identical to a young Obama.
Right.
That literally just think of a young Barack Obama, and that's him. And he was out of Gainesville, and we ended up becoming real tight, but he was also the other orderly. There's only 2 orderlies for the TCU unit. So the TCU unit is 4 units, one being secure, meaning they don't have like sheets or anything. They just have like turtle suits and stuff like that behind the door. And then the other 3 units being they have sheets, they're transitioning back to GP or whatever confinement cell prison they were at, right? And these are inmates from all over the state coming to this TCU unit. Mind you, it's not just the prison that I'm at. It's inmates from Tomoko. It's inmates from, all the way down in Miami. Dude, they're coming from everywhere, all over the state. There's like 49 major institutions. And like I said, you have to do something extreme to get in this unit. And this thing was an eye-opener because I'll never forget walking around from door to door every day. These people have their face sheet on the door, and your face sheet has a picture of your face, the day you got committed to the Department of Corrections, and your release date. And walking down this tier, you can walk by every single door, and none of them give a release date within the next 10 years. Every single release date behind that door says 2056, 99999, sentence to die, 2042, 2067, just crazy release dates. So it was an eye-opener of what I'm really dealing with. You know what I mean?
This is a potential future.
Yeah, this is.
Does it say what their charges are?
No, it doesn't say what their charges are. It's a face sheet, just basically the day they were committed and when they get released. And I would say 99% of the unit had a release date of 2050 or better. You know what I mean? And it's just a big eye opener, man. People, they go psych back there, bro. They'll rub feces on the wall to get attention, or they'll hit their wrist or whatever. And this is the first prison I'm at in the adult system. So it was an eye-opener. And then I end up getting shipped in a behavioral movement shipment because I went to confinement for something petty. And it happens all the time where you'll go to confinement for like a 30-day DR, and because they need room in the confinement for somebody that's currently getting locked up on the compound, they'll put you on a transfer list, and they'll transfer you to a new prison. So I got put on a behavioral transfer list, and I leave Santa Rosa, and I go to Holmes Correctional Institution where it's completely different. It's like I'm just getting used to my mojo over there, and I get over here, and at Holmes, the police run the prison. So that's the thing about Florida is you can wind up at a sweet prison where there's phones floating around, where there's dope, where there's everybody's got their 1-2 going, or you can wind up at a prison where the police run it, and there might be one phone on the whole compound. You know what I mean? And that one person is a target. So I wind up at Holmes, and a lot of that brutality from like my childhood started coming back because I was seeing things like people walk into the chow hall with their not AirPods, but the little wired headphones with the MP4. They had just came out with the MP4 at that time where you could buy songs for like $2.50. And you would see people walk into the chow hall. And I remember this dude walked into the chow hall and the officer grabbed his wired head and ripped them out of his ears. And when the dude bucked up, 4 or 5 officers rushed him, beat him, sprayed him, put him in confinement while he was getting beat and sprayed. You know what I mean? They'll spray you and then beat you. You know what I mean? Or handcuff you, spray you, bring you to a cell, stomp you out real quick, and then tell medical that you tried to assault one of their officers. So it's just an eye opener on that second prison that I went to of this shit's still going on. You know what I mean? Growing up, like I said, boot camps, juvenile detention centers, I've been abused by guards. I've been hit in the face by guards. I've been jumped by boot camp officers my whole childhood. So it's like I'm used to it at this point. And I really didn't start heavily getting involved in gang politics in the adult system until I was at Appalachia Correctional Institution. And reason being is because like I was still a gang member, but like there was no structure on those 2 previous compounds. There was no like mandatory meeting on Sunday between all the homies or mandatory workout 3 times a week. I wasn't introduced to a compound with structure until I went to Appalachia Correctional Institution, which is the wildest, hands down prison I've ever been to. I remember getting to Appalachia, and I remember walking into the dorm and communicating here and there with a couple people, and then somebody from the other camp recognized me, and they went and told the Crips in the dorm, hey, that's a Crip from such and such, da-da-da-da. So they come up, they talk to me, and they like, hey, I hadn't been on the compound but 15 hours, and the homie walks up to me, and he's like, hey, this is the plan, this is this, that, and the third. You're going to go to rec 3 times a week. We're going to meet at the pull-up bar. You're going to work out 3 times a week. Mandatory meeting every Sunday. We have a kitty that goes to the indigent homies. So like if and this is the first, like I said, this first time I got introduced to structure inside of a prison. And he's like, we got a kitty for the indigent homies, meaning like if you get canteen, if you get like $50 a week, $100 a week, take like $1 or $2 out, buy some soap, some hygiene, put it in a kitty, and any one of the Crips on the compound that don't get money, they get to pick stuff out of the kitty for themselves.
Right.
So it was the first time I got introduced to like structure. And part of a structure is there's no getting high. There's no getting high. There's no playing around. There's no drinking. And yes, there's drinking in prison. There's hooch and all that, you know, homemade liquor. But the point in a structure is to move so militant. And it was so not what I was used to moving in prison, but it put me back in that mode from like the youthful offender prisons, like a militant mode. And I didn't think I would get into a lot of shit in adult camp, but man, I got into a lot of shit in adult camps. Man, I fought a booty bandit. Dog. I'll tell you the story. So I shit you not. I walk into the dorm, and this guy who just had just got out of confinement, he's over there by the chess table, and I'm always scanning my environment. Like I'm always just looking around, seeing what's going on in the dorm. And every time my eye passes in that direction, he locks eyes with me, which is fucking weird, right? We're in prison, we're in a dorm, you're an older gentleman, don't know you, you just got out of confinement. Every time I scan the dorm, I lock eyes with you.
Right. Which means he's watching you constantly.
Constant, which means he's got his eyes on me, right? And I go and I tell one of the homies, I'm like, hey, man, what's up with Buddy, man? He keep looking at me, man. And the homie goes and talks to a couple other homies, and somebody says they were at another camp with him at Jackson Correctional Institution, and he like booty. He take booty. He's been in the chain gang for 20, 30 years. He takes booty. Immediately, I lose my shit. I tell my homie, where's the knife? Where's the knife? Immediately, he gives me the knife. I'm about to press him, but like I said, fresh on this compound, fresh in the structure that's going on. I go back to my homie. I'm like, I'm gonna stab him. He's like, no. He's like, no, you can't stab him. You can't do anything. We gotta talk about it first before you can take him up out of here, right? I'm like, all right, bet. They call chow. We all start pouring out the dorm to the chow hall. We get into the chow hall, and this whole time I don't notice it until we get in the chow hall. Buddy walks up to the juice machine, and I look down at his feet, and this is something that a lot of incarcerated people will be able to relate to, is if somebody doesn't wear their shoes every day, or if somebody's just getting out of confinement like he was, they don't have shoes. They don't have access to shoes. Lo and behold, we get to the chow hall. This dude sits down with his tray. He's got these size 12 boats on, strapped extremely tight. And when I say boats, they're like huge shoes. You could tell he borrowed them from somebody. They don't fit him, and they're strapped to the brim. I take that as he's trying to take something from me. So I press him immediately. I walk up to him. I'm like, hey, bro, you gonna stop looking at me? What's up with these shoes you got on? You know what I mean? Like, what, you got some type of pressure on your chest or whatever? Because he knows that I'm feeling him looking at me, and
I was thinking maybe that's why he's got the shoes on. He's thinking,
yeah, exactly. So he the only reason he could have the shoes on is because he feels that I feel some type of way for him keep looking at me.
Yeah.
So I press him. I'm like, why you got your shoes on? Oh, ain't nobody looking at. This is how he hits me with the Florida's very racist. Like, so he hits me with the Crocker. Ain't nobody looking at you. I'm like, I bet when we get back to the dorm, straighten me. And he's like, all right. And child gets up. As one dorm sits down, one dorm has to get up. So that's how the chow hall works. So as that dorm sits down, we start getting up. We start walking back. I'm talking to my homie. I'm like, man, when we get back, let me get some shoes. Da-da-da-da-da. Out of the corner of my eye, I see him creeping up through this is a 53-year-old man too, man. He's like 50, 60, man. He's just a predator. He's creeping up through the line. As he creeps up through the line, I kind of like sidestep him because he tries to take a wild swing at me. He's trying to crash me. This is what we call crashing.
Right.
It's not wait till we get back to the dorm. We're going to go into the cell and we're going to paint, or we're going to get our knife and we're going to knife it out. However, this is, I'm going to hit you. We're going to go down and the officer's going to watch it and take us to confinement, right? That's what we call crashing out. So I see him creeping through the line and he tries to take a swing at me, and I kind of like give it a little sidestep, and it kind of like nudges my chin. But when it nudges my chin, I come around immediately with a left and I hit him, and we lock up and we hit the floor. I land up on top of him and I start fucking drilling him. Boom, 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 boom. As I'm drilling him, the officer's walking up. All the inmates break it up. The officer's like, what's going on? I'm not used to this type of compound. You know what I mean? The officer's like, what's going on? The head of the GDs walks up and is like, nothing, officer such and such. Nobody got stabbed, so it's none of your business. And the officer's like, nobody's bleeding? And he's like, yep, and walks off. So I'm not used to that. You know what I mean? I'm used to, like, we fight, we go into confinement.
Yeah.
And the head of the GDs just walks up to the officers like, nobody's bleeding out, nobody got stabbed, keep walking, keep it pushing. That's how they talk to these officers at this camp. And we get back to the dorm, and I still have, that pressure. So we line it up to where Old School obviously had some friends in the dorm, because it could have went really bad for him. We could have jumped him, but because he had friends in the dorm, everybody was like, no jumping, no jumping. Being in the gang, a lot of stuff ain't fair. Mm-hmm. A lot of fights ain't fair, especially if you're not gang affiliated. And this dude wasn't gang affiliated, but because he's been in prison 20, 30 years, he had some type of affiliation to where people would be like, don't jump. So we go in the room, we square up, and bro, I'm 25 or 6 at the time, 27, something like that. And for a 55-year-old man, incredible strength, incredible. Dude was fucking he was painting with me, bro. He was literally real deal trading blows with me. For a 50-year-old or 60-year-old man, however old he was, booty bandit. There's a reason he was a booty bandit. He was standing in the paint with me the whole time. The homies were there to break it up and everything like that, you know. But after that, I let it die. And this is, mind you, this is like my first, couple weeks at ACI. And I let it die out.
I was gonna say, after that though, does he like?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't give me these looks in the dorm no
Okay.
more. I'm not catching eyes with him no more or anything like that. However, a month later, I would say, not even a month, one of the white boys that was in the dorm who ran with the GDs, he had just got sentenced, and he I think he got like a 20-year sentence or something like that. But he ran with the GDs, and everybody in the dorm knew who he was. He was fresh in prison. He looked like, the only thing I can compare him to is he looked like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. That's what this white boy looked like. Sunshine from Remember the Titans,
the
the
football
quarterback.
movie, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the quarterback from Remember the Titans after he cut his hair. He looked like Sunshine, right? And just innocent, right? But he was a gang member. He gangbanged. He was part of the GDs, and he would get down. And that same dude put his eye on him. And because he didn't check him right away, it progressed to where he locked eyes with him, and the dude had his hands in his pants. So I don't know if he was, playing with himself to the kid or what, but the kid went and told the other GDs in the dorm, and it was a massacre. Within 20 minutes, there was 6 GDs beating this booty bandit over, the one who I had the problem with,
Right.
beating him over the head with broomsticks, locks, fists, shoes, in the middle of the day room. Made him hit the glass. And when we say hit the glass in Florida, that means you go and bang on the glass and say, hey, to the officer, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Made him hit the glass and get out of there. But it's because and the only reason it progressed to that, because he didn't check it immediately. Being incarcerated, when stuff like this happens, you have to realize you're around people who got sentenced in 1970 to life. They've
Right.
been in here for 40, 50 years. This is their life. They've been in here since they were 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, they're never getting
They're
out.
never getting out. They've never had a girlfriend. They've never went to a prom. They don't know what a car is like. They don't know how to drive a car. You know what I mean? There's people like this in prison that had, they got sentenced at a very young age. They don't know what it's like to pay a bill. You know what I mean? And some of them turn into predators, bro. And if you don't stop it immediately, if you feel a predator, in Florida is rampant with predators. It's not like the California prison system or the federal prison system, or Florida state prison is like the wild, wild west. It's out. There's no, unless that gang has a structure, there's no structure anywhere on the compound.
These are horrible stories.
I'm sorry, man.
these are horrible. Like this is like Josh, or we used to have a guy in the at Coleman. Oh gosh, I said his name the other day. Fuck. Anyway, he would tell stories about, because he'd been in state prison. Apollonia. Jeff Apollonia. He'd been in state prison, 5 years here, 6 years here, 2 years here, 7. Mm-hmm. He would get out. This is a guy who his whole life was going in prison. He would get out, sell whatever was popular, get himself a Mercedes, photograph his entire life, create a book, put some money to the side, all waiting for his next bid. And as soon as we're talking about this guy, as soon as he got there, the photograph, he calls his family. How many photos? I can get 12 photos sent in at a time in an envelope. And every 2 days, he gets more and more envelopes coming in. He immediately goes and gets himself a photo book. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen anybody get set up faster than Jeff. Because it was just part of his life. Okay, I'm going to do 4 years. I'm going to get out. I'll start over. He's always putting money aside.
Yeah.
He's always got his whole life photographed.
Like, if you know you're going into prison, you want to photograph you being a big shot, drug dealer, selling hot chicks, parties, everything.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing in prison, showing your photo album off.
Of course. And then he knows how to get it in. So, I mean, we would walk up and, you're waiting for chow, and he would start telling fucking stories about, oh man, listen, when I got to Rayford, or I got to whatever state prison he was in, and they were all Florida. As soon as he started telling a story, I would immediately turn around and just walk away, because the stories were so horrific. I would get this feeling in my stomach, like I hated the idea that these places even existed.
Yeah.
And the stories he would tell, and I would just immediately. I've been in federal prison. I just immediately in federal prison. If you're getting beat up, stabbed, anything, you had it coming. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you brought it on yourself. They gave you. Nobody wants to get in trouble. They gave you an opportunity.
Yeah.
You ran up a debt. You were talking shit about somebody. You gambled. Something happened. They gave you an opportunity to check in, because nobody wants to fuck up their
We do
bid.
that here and there in Florida prison. A lot of violence is unnecessary. I can name several times where violence erupted and it could have been avoided. But there's also times, like for instance, where you're talking about where I was at Appalachia Correctional Institution, and one of the homies was being accused of homosexual activity. The laws are how they stand in a gang, in majority gangs. There's no homosexual activity. Not allowed. If you get caught, you can get X'd out and shipped off the compound, either in a box or severely hurt, right? And rumors were coming around that one of the homies kept going in the cell with a punk. And this is adult camp. Punks are regular, especially in Florida prison. Seeing a punk, and if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say punk, I'm talking about a homosexual, a person that likes the same
gay
sex.
guy.
Yeah, gay guy. And the difference between these gay guys and perchance a gay guy on the street, the gay guy on the street, he chooses to be gay.
Right.
These guys, they want to be gay because they're never leaving. Okay. They're never leaving. Like I said, some of these people have been incarcerated since their early 20s till they're 30, 40 years old. They've never seen a prom. They've never had a girlfriend. They've never lost their virginity. Their first time losing their virginity was with a boy in jail or something like that. There are actual gangs of homosexuals inside prison that will develop a name like the TC3P or whatever they want to call themselves, the Rainbow Warriors. I don't whatever they want to call themselves, right?
Horrible.
But these are a group of gay people, and they're not necessarily taking ass. Yeah, some people take ass in the 90s and the 80s, but we're in the 2000s, and it's not too much graping going on inside the Florida Department of Corrections. It's more willing.
Yeah.
But they roll around 4 or 5 deep, and if you mess with one of them, if you even get out of line to one of them, you're gonna have 4 men who like men stabbing you. Just because they're gay does not mean they are not capable of committing atrocious violence. Some of those dudes have 3, 4, 5 life sentences, never going home, are committed. They're married to another man in jail. Maybe not legally, but they probably made them a little ring out of yarn and put it on his finger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so anyways, back to the story. We got this homie who's being accused of homosexual activity. And this is one of the very few compounds that I have been on that there was a structure. So if you got caught getting high, if you got caught not going to rec and working out, all these things were potential Vs. Homosexual activity is a potential X, meaning it's not a violation. You can get X'd out. You can get taken off the compound. And you can either get taken off politely or unpolitely. So with what you were saying about giving people forewarning, we had a meeting. And the head, my homeboy Ant, I actually got an ant tattooed for him. He actually got stabbed 6 months after I got out and died inside the unit that I was in. But Ant, he makes the decision. He's the head on the compound, and he makes the decision. He makes the decision to ultimately give NO, who was the dude who was accused of homosexual activity, he gave him the decision, hey, you got 24 hours to check in. Get off this compound. We don't want you here no more. If you don't, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. He goes to lieutenant's office, bangs on the door, says, I'm in jeopardy.
Yeah.
My life is being threatened. You gotta put me in the shoe immediately or they're gonna kill me.
Immediately. And so we give him the option to do that. And No's not a small dude. He's 6'4", has a 30-year bid under his belt. None of my homies, I was the shortest timer for the gang on the compound. I was the shortest timer. Like, I was the only one that was getting out within a couple of years. Everybody else was a release date of 2050 or something. And he's not a small dude. He's got a 30-year sentence and pretty big dude. And
Must think
he
I mean
doesn't
much
budge.
against six guys.
He
Six
doesn't-
guys jump on you.
Yeah, he doesn't budge though. He doesn't budge. We give him the news. One of the homies steps to him and lets him know, hey, you got 24 hours. Dinner time comes around, chow time. We go to chow. He's still in his dorm, hasn't checked in yet. Master roster count comes around, still in his dorm, hasn't checked in yet. So we get word from one of the orderlies that he locked into his cell for the night. He's not checking in. He locked in, so we'll see him in the morning. So that night, the homie Ant slides a kite to another person in the dorm who's not affiliated. He was just like a junkie. I would say he's a junkie. That's the only thing I could. If anybody is willing to take a hit for K2, they're a junkie.
All right.
Right. So he slides a note to the dude, lets the dude know, hey, I got 3 50 pieces. You take him off the compound in the morning. A 50 piece is a chapstick cap full of dope. So 3 of those is 3 50 pieces, 3 chapstick caps full of dope. And he slides the note, lets him know by morning in front of everybody in the child. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, dude. Violence at 6 o'clock in the morning is the worst, bro, because you're still rubbing eye boogers out your eye. And we get to the chow hall, and Ant didn't let me know that he paid the junkie already to do it. I'm sitting there eating breakfast, and I hear, ah! And I look up, and the dude's clutching onto his face, and like a piece of his face is like hanging, and he's trying to push it like back together and run from the junkie that Ant paid. Ant paid the junkie 350s to slice him. Not stab him, slice him. And they sliced him from here to here. And I just remember looking up from eating my grits and eggs, and dude just taking off 4 flat towards the officers, holding his face like this with blood just coming down his arm all the way down. And just a wild experience, man. But it was the first time that I was introduced to actual structure. You know what I mean? And it kind of gave me a level head of, there's no playing around with this. You're with killers right now. You're not with, the juveniles doing the juvenile thing. Everybody's getting out in a few years. You're with killers, bro. And not only are you with killers, but you're actively gangbanging with killers. And true enough, like some of the homies, they looked out for me. Like it wasn't like if a hit had to be played out, I wasn't the first choice. Because the homies knew I was going home. They knew I was going home, and they respected that. A lot of people won't understand that. A lot of people think, oh, they don't care. But in the gang culture, they care about each other. And the homies, these are people that I've never met a day before my life until prison, right? And they cared enough to somebody, like I remember Twin telling me I had a knife on me, and I was going to go on a hit. I was going to hit somebody with a knife. And Twin I remember he's another loc. He had 39 years. His name's Twin, Shoreline Mafia Crip. And he tells me, he's like, give me the knife, Pino.
Right. What are you doing?
Yeah, he stops me. He says, give me the knife, Pino. What are you doing? And I'm like, what you mean? I'm going to take Buddy out of here. He got to get off this compound. And this is a totally different hit. And Twin grabs my shirt and says, give me the knife. And he says, I got 39 years. I'll take him off the compound. I'll never forget that shit. It's just, and this is somebody who I met in prison. You know what I mean? But It was such a brotherhood that he knew he had 39 years. He's never going home. And yeah, man.
So when did that prison sentence end?
That prison sentence ended in 2018, and I ended up doing 6 years, 10 months out of the 7 years. So I think I got like 2 months gain time. Yeah. But I get out, and again, I still have the same way of thinking. I can't even say when I got out of prison on my second bid that I got out like a saint.
Right.
Because I still had the same way of thinking. As a matter of fact, like within the first year of getting out, I was involved in some shit that I won't talk about, but it was a come up for me. A few $1,000s, and you know, I'm fresh out. It was a come up for me. So I was still involved in the bullshit. I was still getting into the bullshit. When I left for my second bid, I had actually, I skipped over this part, but I had actually got a girl pregnant before going to jail. So when I get out, I'm getting out to a daughter. Right? And I don't know how to be a dad. I don't. I at that time, I'm fresh out of prison, spent 10 years of my life in Florida Department of Corrections, another probably like 18 to 20 months in juvenile between detention centers. I don't, you know, like I really don't know how, you know, to function at all. Like my whole, every way of thinking is a criminal way of thinking. So like I said, I got out to a daughter, right? And she, at this time, she's 7, you know, going on 8. The girl had just got pregnant when I went in. And I really didn't know how to be a dad all the way to when my daughter was 10 or 11 and I had another kid coming on the way. And then my son came. And it was like a reality check. It was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like, bro, you have 2 kids. You have 2 kids now. They're relying on you. And that is what it kind of took for me to steer off of my life of like criminality. But like I said, within the first year out, dude, I was still a nutcase, bro. I mean, within my first 2 years out, I started doing YouTube, and then I developed a beef with another YouTuber via podcasting, and that other YouTuber tried to play the back and forth video game with me, and I just drove up there and assaulted him.
That's 1090 Jake.
Yeah. So like I said, and at that time, I'm only 2 years out. I'm fresh out, and other people are referring me to YouTube, saying, "Hey, dude, you know, you should tell your story on YouTube." People who know me, they're like, "Dude, you have a wild story, bro. You've been through so much shit, you know."
Were you already putting stuff up, like on TikTok? Was TikTok out?
No, I had just did my first interview on Lockdown 23-1. Shout out to Josh. I just did my first interview on his channel, and it was because somebody pressured me. They were like, "Hey, dude, you got a crazy story. I'm cool with Josh. Tell your story."
His channel, by the way, when I was in the halfway house, it was one of the first channels. I don't know if it was the first, one of the first kind of prison channels, because you know, like there's true crime and there's prison channels, but it was a prison channel and it was big.
Yeah.
And so I remember watching that. Like, I don't understand what this guy. You know, I know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? He's the camera. Got a camera sitting up there.
Yeah,
and
he's the gatekeeper for the prison genre, man.
Right.
Definitely the gatekeeper.
And he's just talking. He's just, you know, and I was like, and people like, this guy's making money doing this? Like, I don't understand. And he's talking about prison, like, but the kind of stuff he was talking about, like, you guys are like, yeah, you should do this. And I'm like, bro, I have no experience. Like, he's talking about gangs and different things that are, like, I can't talk about that. Even if you said, yeah, you could do it for the federal system. I was in a low, bro. I was in a medium for 3 years teaching GED. I don't know what these guys are fucking doing.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, this is not going to work for me. But when you had mentioned him before, I thought, oh, I know exactly who that was.
Speaking of GED, I actually, my second time going in, I skipped by the part. My second time going in after being out for 5 months and I go back to jail, within that year in jail, I actually got my GED in jail. So I did end up getting my GED. But like I said, still involved in the dumb stuff. I get out of prison. This is my second time getting out of prison. This time coming back to Broward County, not Martin County. So I'm coming back home where I know everybody. And
People are telling you got to go on his channel.
yeah, people are telling me, you got to go on this channel. You got to go on this channel. So I go on the channel, and Josh asked an innocent question, like, have you ever seen, a white blood, or is white Crips normal in prison, and are white bloods normal in prison? Because he had just interviewed 1090 Jake, whose interview was going crazy at the time. And I answered the question the only way I knew how was, I've never seen a white blood in prison. And that's just what it is. I've actually seen one person in prison that was a blood, and this was at Holmes. He came to the prison. He said he was a blood. The bloods were gonna, what they quote unquote call, eat him by the next day. And that means they were gonna take him off the compound. They were gonna get him out of there.
Okay.
And a booty bandit, the dude who ran laundry, had like 3 life sentences, ran laundry, stepped to the head of the bloods and said, I'm gonna take him. Just like that. And he stepped to that white boy and he put his 1-2 down. I don't know what he told him. I don't know if he told him, you'll be dead by the morning if you're not my bitch. I don't know what he told him, but he told him something to make him his girlfriend. And from that point on, that white dude who was claiming to be a blood when he came to the compound, for the rest of his time was a girlfriend to a man with 3 life sentences who worked in laundry. And the bloods wouldn't touch him out of respect for that man that worked in laundry, because that man with them 3 life sentences who liked butt, he was a killer. And killers, whether you like it or not, killers develop some type of respect, especially, if you're not just a killer from the street, if you're a killer from the inside, if you're known for putting people in the ICU on the inside, there's a level of respect. So the head of the bloods was like, I don't want to ever hear him say he's a blood again to anybody. I don't want it to even come out of his mouth. If it comes out of his mouth, we're taking him out of here, but he can be your girlfriend. And dude did the rest of his time on that pound as a girlfriend.
And this is a story, and you tell this story on...
So, no, I don't tell that story, but I answer the question. That was a story for you.
Oh, okay.
But I answered the question with an immediate, I've never seen a white blood.
Right.
Never seen a white blood. Did a lot of time gangbanging in youthful offender prison. Yeah, I've seen maybe a white blood once or twice, in adult prisons. Never seen a white blood. I actually have ran into problems, and this is what I proceeded to tell Josh. I actually ran into problems myself as a white Crip. I've actually been stepped to by another Crip and was like, hey, I don't like white Crips. We don't want white people in our organization. I had to fight for my respect. But I tell this story, and not the whole story, but I tell the part about, you got another Crip pressed me on the compound and da-da-da-da, and how there's no white bloods, and I've never seen a white blood. I don't mention the story about the dude who gets punked, but that clip goes viral. This guy who's been incarcerated over 10 years is saying there's no white bloods. All this dude's stories are fake. And at the time, 1090 Jake was blowing up. I didn't even know who he was.
Right.
Brother, I did not even know who a 1090 Jake was. He asked me a question.
Right.
He said, is there white bloods in prison? And I answered it fresh out of prison. Hell no.
Right.
Never seen it. Because it's like a fucking unicorn. You're not going to see it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So suddenly it starts this whole beef that you have no idea.
Starts this whole controversy online, and I have no idea. So behind the scenes, the dude who I was cool with, who actually I was in the county jail with, K-Frog, he calls 1090 and tries to get us to be cool behind the scenes. So we end up becoming cool, do like an Instagram live together once or twice. And shortly thereafter, they conspired to try to expose me, try to make videos on me, and they tried to call me a quote-unquote rat when I'm I just told you my story. I'm the only one that went to prison. The girl was the main witness testifying against me. I'm the only one that went to prison, right? So and for 7 years at that, not just the only one that went to prison, for 7 years at that. And so they co-conspire behind the scenes, him and K-Frog, to make videos back to back and drop them on YouTube about me, right?
Are they specifically saying like you cooperated?
Yeah, so they're
not. It's not like they're hinting.
They're specifically saying, "Oh, PNO cooperated. PNO's a snitch. This, that, and the third." Because at the time there was a lot of drama on YouTube. especially for upcoming creators in the prison genre and people who've been here for a while. They'll get in your comments and be like, yeah, I remember that. There was so much drama going back and forth. And I guess they figured the more drama, the more views. So they decided to drop videos back to back. One video hit like 30K, one video hit like 50K. For like a week straight, I was trying to call K-Frog, and I was like, what's up? Let's link. Let's talk about this in person. You're ducking me. You don't want to talk about it in person. I'm still a hothead. I'm only been out like a year and a half, 2 years. I'm with my homeboy, and my homeboy's like, shit, I got to go to, he says, I got to go to Maryland for a play. And I'm fresh out. This is the type of stuff that I'm getting involved in is, you know, little plays here and there. Maybe I'll go pick up 10 plates from here and drop them here and make like 3 or 4 bands on top. Little plays, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm going with you. We're making a pit stop. And the dude who I'm talking to is a GD. But I've known him like my whole life.
Okay, can I say something real quick? Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is how fucked up. When you said a play, I thought he must be like an actor or like until you started explaining, I'm picking up to. I thought that's what I thought, bro. That's how fucking.
Yeah. So he tells me he has a play. He tells me he has a play for 10 pounds. We're gonna pick up and drop off, and we're gonna make a few $1,000s. And I'm like, bet. This is a homie who I've known for a long time. He also gang bangs. He's part of another gang. He's a GD, and I tell him the shit that's going on YouTube, and he's like, we're gonna go pay him a visit. Let's go pay him a visit. So
On probation.
On probation at that. So on 5 years probation. So we get in the car, me, him, and his girlfriend at the time, who's also a gang member. She's part of the Imperial Gangsters or something like that, some fraction of the folks or whatever. Anyways, we pile up in the car and we're like, bet, we're gonna make money and we're gonna handle business. And we drive up there and
Drive up to Maryland?
we drive to Maryland first. We stop in Maryland for a little bit, and then we drive to Massachusetts from Maryland.
With your probation officer's permission, of course.
Maybe. No probation
right.
officer permission. I got early terminated, so I could talk about it. I'm off of probation. But I actually got early terminated off of this same probation for good behavior.
Nice.
Isn't that an irony, right? So while I'm on probation, anyways, we drive up there, we shoot up there, we hit Maryland, we leave Maryland, we go to Massachusetts, and I wind up in Southie, in Boston, Southie, and I had a big Instagram follow base at the time, so I get on Instagram and I'm like, the weather in Southie Boston is nice, man. It's feeling good out here, you know. And I'm low key kind of taunting 1090 because we're going back and forth at this point. So he takes to his live and goes out front of his house and goes live, has like 600 people on his Instagram live while he's live. And he's like, tell all y'all tag PNO, tell him where he's at. Where's PNO at? I'm starting to get these tags, bro. I look at my phone, I got like 54 notifications, people tagging me in this video. So I join the live and I'm just, trying to peep the scene. Mm-hmm. And I tell one of my moderators who was on my channel at the time, I tell him to jump in the Instagram live and tell him to drop a location, because all I see is these big red brick buildings behind you. I don't know Boston. He keeps saying he's in Dorchester. You're saying you're in a city. What am I gonna do? Comb the city for you?
Right.
So I'm hitting people up who I fuck with on Instagram via YouTube, and I'm like, hey, drop in his chat, tell him to drop a location. So he drops a location. And when he drops the location, he says, oh, I'm on Vermont and Howard. I was like, bet. I got the phone out at Vermont and Howard in the GPS. And as we're going, it's like 15 minutes away. The homie tells me, hey, we're going to jump him. And I tell him no, because like I said, I'm new on social media at this time. I don't want that look of jumping somebody. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go up there and handle business. Nothing was arranged. This is just me pulling up on somebody that went on Instagram live and was like, come pop out, come pop out. This is not like it was a 5-star, boxing event. It
Yeah.
was literally me driving 30 hours to pull up on you. And anyways, I put the address in the GPS, and I'm watching his live as we're pulling up, and he's on the front street. We passed him 3 times. He doesn't even know that to this day. We passed him 3 times. Like, our car was dark, tinted out, and we passed him 3 times. And all 3 times, I'm scoping, like, how am I going to get to him? How am I going to get to him? Because he's on the front street where there's cars everywhere. These lives are still on YouTube, too. Like, somebody screen recorded them, put them on YouTube. Some of them have over 100,000 views. So he is in front of the building, and the way these neighborhoods are in Dorchester is the entrance to the house is behind the apartment. It's not in the front. In the front is just windows and a wall showing like a 4 or 5 story apartment.
So it's like
building.
in an alley.
Yes, so there's a middle thing that you walk through, like a breezeway to the back, and in the back there's a parking lot. So after my 3rd time passing by, I realized there's a parking lot in the back. Let's go to the back. So we pull around the back, and my homeboy, he's still upset. He wants to jump. He wants to. Both of them do. The chick too. They want to jump. They don't want a fair fight. We can't. We're from Florida. We're already looking at it as, a gang issue. We're from another state. We're trying to prove a point. They want to jump. I'm like, nah. So he, he's like, hey, slides me a little something to harden up. And he's like, bro, I want to see blood drawn, bro. He's like, we not making this pit stop for nothing. I want to see blood drawn, make an example out of him. And as we pull up into the back of the parking lot, like I said, I'm still watching his live. This black dude passes in front of our car with dreads. He passes by and he goes up towards the breezeway. 1090 is walking through the breezeway. I'm looking at the live. The dude who just passed me is passing him on his live. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, it's time. So I jump out, and he's still on his live when he walks to the back. And I'm like, nah, don't put the live down now. And then handled up from there. I ended up on top of him, pounding his face in, and got back to the car. He tried to like run after me to the car. I asked him if he wanted another one, and he did nothing because, dude, his face was gushing bad. A lot of people on YouTube, I haven't told this story like to an extent like this, but dude, he was gushing bad. He was like, he couldn't see. He was gushing so bad. So he kept wiping his face like, oh, hold on. So I was like, whatever. And I got in the car and we left. And that was the start of the whole saga. 30 hours north to do that. That was just the start of the saga. And like I said, I had only been out of prison like 2 years, still had the same mindset. It took me having a son to realize that I have 2 kids now. I need to be a father. Like, even with my daughter, I didn't grow up because I didn't raise her until she was 7. I was in the Department of Corrections. Her mom was raising her, so I never knew how to be a father. Mm-hmm. So it didn't take till like 3.5 years into being free before I finally, shit started settling in. You can't do stuff like this no more. And like I said, bro, I was on probation when I did that. I got early terminated by the grace of God for good behavior.
And nothing happened as a result of that with probation?
Nothing. So I do have to give it to him.
I was gonna say,
he kept it a buck. He didn't call the police and say he was assaulted or anything like that.
I'm surprised nobody else did. I mean, it's on the live.
It's not only is it on the live, but the reason I got off of him and started going back to the car is because when the blood was gushing everywhere and I was hitting him, I looked up and like everybody's coming out of their, like I said, you enter your apartment through the backside.
Right.
So everybody's coming out of their apartment and looking, and people are like looking down and like shouting and saying stuff. And I'm in a blur. I don't know. I have tunnel vision. So I don't know what's going on around me. I just know there's people outside and people are watching me beat his face bloody. So that's kind of what made me get up. Plus, I was on probation, and I was like, "Nah,
you're on prison. There's all kinds of things that are wrong with that situation for you." But so you get out. You guys kind of are you guys? Does that basically quash it? You don't hear anything, or is it a little bit of bickering back and forth, and then it dies out?
So he,
or do you actually have a
so
sit
I
down,
had video of it. So Like I said, I just got involved in YouTube and all the social media stuff. I really didn't know nothing about it, but people kept pressuring me to get involved. Somebody who's been free and been out gave me good advice. They were like, record it. I mean, it sounds like dumb advice, but from a YouTuber or from a podcaster perspective, it's,
it's great
timeless content.
Right.
It's content that you can play 30 years from now. So the girl that was with me, I put my phone in her hand and I was like, record this shit.
Right.
And so from the moment he walked from behind that building and I stepped up on him and was like, don't put the phone down now, it was being recorded.
But once that's over and you get back,
he goes to his live. So the point of me bringing up the recording is he goes to his live and he posts like a subliminal message on his story, and then I go to my live and I'm like, show your face.
Right.
I tell the audience to tell him to show his face. So he goes live on YouTube, still leaking, and starts talking crazy. He had this, and tell him who is he with and what did they do, and like completely dry snitching. But again, I'm amazed I didn't get, roped up behind this or anything like that. Actually, like I said, I got early terminated from probation. But me getting away with this, I believe ultimately led to me landing on the gang task force radar, as well as, the DEA or whoever it was trying to interrogate me. It was the DEA and the gang task force, FBI Liaison gang task force or whatever, for the county for South Florida.
And so they show up at your door and question you?
They snatched me from the park.
Oh.
I'm sitting at the park smoking a joint, and they pull up on me in undercover cars, one minivan, one Tahoe, and like one Charger, and they pull up, jump out, put me in handcuffs, bring me to the police station. I don't know what I'm there for until the detectives come, and the detectives say I'm being charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
And this is in Florida?
This is in Florida. So ultimately, like I said, I feel like what I was doing led me to be on the radar. The fact that the police later on, not at the very time, but later on, they knew I went up there and beat 1090 Jake up. It went viral all over social media, from Instagram to YouTube to TikTok. It went viral everywhere. So to say that a cop wasn't watching his phone and seeing what happened would be frivolous. But ultimately, that's what landed me on their radar. That's why they came and got me for the firearm charge, to which I already beat one of the charges we're currently fighting right now, the firearm charge. But I beat the marijuana charge. And the witness in the gun charge case is the cop from the marijuana charge. So we have a motion to dismiss on the first. God willing, they'll throw the case out. But this whole YouTube and going and showing the world me driving 30 hours to beat somebody bloody and then drive back home in a celebrating victory dance or whatever it was that I put off to the cops, it put me on their radar. On top of that, I believe, there's some YouTubers who don't like me that are informing, because it's nothing for them to just say, to get me out of the way, just get on their phone and call the local prosecutor and be like, hey, such and such, I was on probation, dude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I had got early terminated. So it was like a slap in the face, committing crimes and getting early terminated while you're on probation.
What are your YouTube channel now and your TikTok and everything now? Are you going to start interviewing people? And we talked about this before.
So from the very start, I've been interviewing people. Right after lockdown 23-1, Josh gave me the great advice. Hey man, you can do this same thing. I'll tell people to go to your channel. You can do it too. And that's when I started my channel, and I actually started interviewing everyday people in my life. And dude, I had 10,000 followers, but every one of my interviews were pulling like 50 to 100K. And I was just interviewing people that were around me in everyday life. It wasn't like I was going around, because I was fresh to the scene. Mm-hmm. I wasn't an active podcaster. I was fresh to the scene, trying to make it, but all the content was around me. Prostitutes, gang members, all of it was around me. So it was easy to tell one of my homeboys, hey, let's sit down and do an interview. Tell your story on my channel, man. I got a little, audience watching right now. Tell your story. And they'll come in and tell their story about their prison bid and this, that, and the third. And like I said, I went through a lot of struggles. We talked about this before. I went to a lot of struggles with YouTube to where they demonetized me. And, I had to actively come up with a plan on my own, to which I bought a 16-foot box truck and, started doing junk removal as well as private moves. And it kind of strayed me away from YouTube, but, I'm back.
Okay. This is usually what I ask Colby. What do you think? Anything else?
You're at 2:40, so
Yeah. No, I'm
that
good
was
with
kind of a good little wrap up.
No, I'm good with the time. But I mean, what do you think?
Dude, I could go.
I mean, Colby will cut all this.
I could go for days. Dude,
But
10
I mean-
years incarcerated is so much stories. And
Well, no, I'm thinking like anything else you want to talk about, like what's happening now.
as far as now, anything that's going on right now, like I said, I'm fighting the case.
Right.
I got a really good lawyer I actually became really tight with. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm established. You know what I mean? So it's not like when I was a kid and all these crimes that I committed when I was a kid, and I went to jail, I didn't really lose anything. I lost some clothes, some jewelry, but I really didn't lose anything. And now, 36, if I go to jail, I lose everything, brother. It's not the same. It doesn't hit the same as it hit when I was like 20 years old, 18 years old with nothing to lose. Now I go to jail. I have 2 kids that rely on me. I have a house. I have a car. I have insurance payments. I have a
your
16-foot
furniture's
box
gone.
truck.
All your shit's gone.
Everything.
Even if it's 3 months.
Everything, and people like to say that, my old lady's gonna keep it solid when,
man,
dude,
almost
you
never
can't
happens.
ask anybody to keep it solid for years at a time.
Yeah.
They can keep it solid. They can be your friend. They can write you letters and look out. But dude, the world keeps going, and you realize that when you after so many times going in and out, the world doesn't stop for you. It just keeps on going, and it will move on without you in a heartbeat. So like I said, I'm 36. I can't take that in my life no more. I'm established. I have a business. I have a truck. I have a car. I have 2 kids who rely on daddy. You know what I mean? So it just hits different now.
A lot of people they think, oh well, my girl, she's gonna hold it down. It's but she didn't really sign up for this. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't. Sometimes it's like, oh, I can't believe that she did this and she did this. Okay, but she didn't sign up for you going to prison for 5 years.
No, if anything, she told your stupid ass to stop doing what you were doing.
Yeah, right.
If anything, she was the only one telling you, hey, chill out. You're going to end back up in jail. Stop doing that dumb shit. And you didn't listen to her. Now you expect her to stay loyal for the next 5 years while you're incarcerated. It's madness, bro. We have one life to live. And like I said, that's when I was facing those 15 mandatory and I made that call to my girl and I told her, just go live life. I don't want to be the reason you spend 8 years facilitating a phone commissary and letters and shit like that. Go live your life. Go be happy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've done a lot of growing up since then. Just a wild childhood. We can on another day we can go back and I got tons more stories.
One more thing. You never explained where PNO comes from. You said that's where I got my
all right,
name.
let me get into that. I'm at Santa Rosa. I get assigned as the TCU orderly. And like I said, all these people are locked behind the door. 99% of them have like multiple life sentences, never getting out. They're psychiatric. They're in a transitional care unit. So anything they need behind the door, they're calling out to the only 2 orderlies in the dorm, me and Obama. Right. So every day I get work call, and I line up to go to work call, and I go over to the secure TCU. You got to go through like 3 gates to get to the TCU unit, right? And I go through and I get in there. As soon as I walk in there, behind the door, I hear, Brandon, coming from this cell, coming from that cell, coming from up here, coming from down here. Hey, pass this to cell 3. Hey, can you pass this? Hey, can you tell cell 2, does he have a book? Hey, can you ask cell 4 if he has a peanut butter squeeze? Like I said, these people are locked behind the door. all day. They're not able to pass stuff. We do it for them. So Obama, he was kind of tired of it. He was like, bro, you can't let these people behind the door know your government name. And I'm like, why? Like I said, this is my first adult prison. He's like, bro, they will fly a kite on you. If you, the first time you don't give somebody what they want, if somebody wants some dope and you don't sell him some dope behind that door, he's going to tell on you. He's going to write a kite and say you have dope with your first and last name. So I was like, okay. He's like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Pompano. He's like, PNO. We calling you PNO from now on. And bro, that whole week he called me PNO. Like anytime we would go, like we're passing out trays, we're sweeping, mopping, whatever we're doing. He's like, hey PNO, hey PNO, hey PNO. So everybody behind the door hears him calling me PNO. So now they're like, hey PNO, hey PNO, hey PNO, hey PNO. And it just stuck.
It just follows you.
It followed me from Santa Rosa to Holmes to Appalachia Correction Institution to YouTube.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, if you go into the description box, we're going to leave all of Pino's links in the description so you can go to his YouTube, all of his other social media, and you can follow and subscribe. He's got some great stuff on his channel, and he's going to be doing more and more interviews. Thank you very much. Also, if you want to be considered for a guest, we're going to leave the link to the website. You can go to the website, go to the Be a Guest page. You can fill out an application, leave a very short video, and we will get back to you. Thank you very much. See ya.